couple of days where the real work is going to be done, where the international delegates will start doing the horse trading and start trying to really knit together a deal, which we all hope will show some real action. That's certainly what our members are telling us. They want to see something tangible come out of these talks.
The British government hosting the event wants a global commitment to ensure net zero carbon emissions by the year 2050. But as the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi indicated in his speech on Monday, that may be a tough climb. India, he says, won't achieve that goal until 20 years later. The main news again. At COP26, Prime Minister Boris Johnson says limiting the rise of the Earth's temperatures below 1.5 degrees Celsius is a matter of life and death for the planet. The Ethiopian government has declared a nationwide state of emergency after rebels said they will seek to enter the capital, Addis Ababa. And Facebook is shutting down its facial recognition system and deleting 1 billion pictures from its database in a bid, it says, to address privacy concerns. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish a TV show where I travel across this great nation eating pork in every one of our 50 states. Join me on my cross-country odyssey as I make our forefathers proud, reveling in life, liberty, and the pursuit of pork.
You really taste the cooked pork.
This stuff is fantastic.
I'm a big salt fan.
Let's pork! We're tasting prime pork dishes in every state in the Union, and I couldn't be more excited for this once-in-a-lifetime tour. You're going to be right here with me, seeing everything I do and watching every pork I taste. I'm Jim Haggerty. You know me as the host of Today Now, but I've also eaten in a ton of restaurants. Now I'm heading out on the road. My mission? Find the best pork our country has to offer.
Watch Jim Haggerty's Porkin' Across America at youtube.com/The Onion.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, where you can call in and talk about whatever is on your mind, whatever's important to you. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. That's 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And coming up, I've got a story about these Peruvian tribes that take like 26 hours to travel to. You gotta take a boat up a river, and sometimes the river's dried out or there's logs across it. For some reason, some team of people decided that it was necessary to take COVID-19 vaccines to this tribe that's almost impossible to get to. Is
this one of these tribes that's never even seen like white people like ever?
No, they're not quite that remote. I mean, they're not an uncontacted tribe or anything like that, but they're really far away, and it doesn't seem very likely that COVID represents a very large threat to them.
They've survived way worse, I imagine.
The water that they swim in, and the little bugaboos that crawl in the orifices. They've got much more to worry about. But I mean, could you say that missionaries do the same thing? But I mean,
yeah, but what confuses me about this is that there's no way these tribes could be at risk of getting COVID except by these people who are coming.
Oh, that's a good point.
Bringing it to
bring them. Yeah. And that ties into Pfizer's record profits that they're generating this year. Sales are up, and the vaccine represents like, I think, 75% of their revenue this year. We're going to get into that. But first, Conan, you brought in a story that sounds like a lot of fun. It's not really a story.
It's an update. I don't know if this is just October or it's the entire year of 2021, but Merriam-Webster has added 455 new words.
Okay.
Because
sounds promising.
Of course, the language evolves, and it seems to me like a lot of slang and
internet slang
type words are the ones that get added the most. But I mean, this is the way that the language evolves. But they've broken it down into categories. And so first off, we've got culture and communication, and a lot of this is basically things like TBH.
To be honest. Okay.
That's
not a word, though. That's an acronym.
Well, there's acronyms in a dictionary.
Are there?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Am I right? All shortened into one little.
Okay. That's stupid, but I understand why it's there. People do that online.
Exactly. FTW, which I like, which I use a lot myself.
For the win.
For the win.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Here's one that we probably all saw coming. Deplatform. It's now a Webster dictionary entry.
Was that not? I'm surprised that wasn't already a word.
Some of these words that I'm going to bring up are obviously been used for. We've been using them all year.
Yeah, well, deplatformed. That's been going on since at least 2018. I think 2018 was when Facebook deplatformed Alex Jones. So that's been going on for quite a while. I'm surprised it took them, 2 to 3 years.
It takes them a few years. I don't think they're not like Urban Dictionary where anybody can just go and add whatever they want. They're a little more choosy. They deliberate a little longer to see if a word, I think, sticks around.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Here's one that I've never heard of. Digital nomad.
Oh, that's a person who travels and kind of makes their living on the road.
Yeah, someone who performs their occupation entirely over the internet while traveling.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering how the digital thing played into it.
And that definitely makes sense.
That's just a nomad, really, right?
Well, it's a specific type of nomad.
They're specifically enabled by the fact that the internet exists. Otherwise, this person would likely be stuck in a job somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not a bad way to live, I suppose.
With the coming metaverse,
God,
I can see more and more people who are going to become these digital nomads.
On the subject of the metaverse, I have a really interesting story about Facebook and how they're putting an end to their facial recognition system.
Well, that only makes sense.
You mean the thing that automatically identifies people in photographs that you upload?
Yeah, and I'm shocked by that.
Well, it sounds like they're just putting an end to it as far as the user experience is concerned. I suspect it will still be operating in the background for the benefit of law enforcement.
It's possible, but we'll get into that story later. Let's carry on with the new words that Webster has added.
Coronavirus words. What do you think? Words that have...
Vax.
Nope.
Okay, so vax did not make the list?
There's a variant of vax, but not VAX.
Unvaxxed.
No.
Jabbed?
No, vaccine passport. 2 words. I don't know if they can get away with that.
Guess they're expecting that to stick around.
So
they're expecting that one to stick around because that one hasn't been around for 3 years. That's new.
And how are they defining that? As
a vaccine passport is a physical or digital document providing proof of vaccination against one or more infectious diseases, such as COVID-19.
Okay.
So they're already planning for the next one, the next big one. You know that they are. And of course all of the boosters and every 6-month shots that you're going to have to get in order to prove that you're fully vaccinated.
I don't know that every 6 months is going to be enough, but we'll see. They're already talking about offering 4th shots to people who are immunocompromised. I think the CDC has actually authorized that. And meanwhile, some of us are still sitting here without any of the shots, so we're still doing just fine.
Just fine. We're all young though. We get out.
Well, don't forget they're approving the shots for the kids coming real soon. The FDA has already given it the nod, and now I think they're just waiting on the CDC.
And that's ages 5 to 11.
5 to 11. It's talk about child abuse.
Yeah, it's so sick.
I mean, considering the study just came out showing that people who get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine have a 3.5 times higher rate of a certain type of blood clot, a deadly blood clot, than the average population, and the FDA appeared to be completely ignorant of this reality, even though, people have been talking about blood clots and the vaccines since the vaccines came out. A year later, not even a year later, is it? They're like, oh.
It's not even in a year yet.
Yeah, it turns out this thing will cause blood clots that will kill you. Let's approve them for the children.
Everyone, if you're still on the fence thinking about this thing, go to the VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Reaction Reporting System, and look at some of the cases. And maybe that'll open your eyes to the that the repercussions from taking this vaccine far outweigh the actual virus itself. At this point in the game,
without a doubt,
but you don't hear this from anywhere else. Only on alternative media like us.
One of my roommates right now has COVID-19. Well, she's tested positive for COVID-19, and she seems to be sick, so presumably she has COVID-19.
So she's not just a case or an infection. She's an actual.
She's actually to be
ill.
sick. I mean, I keep my house warm, and she's running around in a sweater, so I mean, it's like 75 degrees in there. So she's a little sick, sure, but I'm not at risk of it because I've got natural immunity from having had COVID-19 like 6-7 months ago. And even the CDC has admitted, hey, it turns out that natural immunity is actually a thing. We just don't think it's as good as the vaccine. But of course not, because they can't monitor or track that.
Yeah, that's the way it used to be. Natural immunity. That was the way to go.
But the risk of actually, dying
chickenpox parties, people. There used to be chickenpox parties. I went to one when I was a kid.
I don't think I went to one, but I definitely had chickenpox. But yeah, the risk of dying from COVID-19 or even getting any serious illness from COVID-19 is non-existent for me. I've had it, and I came through just fine, versus the fact that I smoke and I'm on estradiol, both of which make me prone to having blood clots in the first place. Why would I risk any of these vaccines?
By the way, there's an update on the children vaccination vote. The CDC's committee met today and voted 14-0 to recommend the vaccine for younger children. It now awaits the director of the CDC signing off on the vote, which is almost a guarantee. So
she's going to sign it.
One step away from being done.
Hold on, the CDC votes on stuff?
Apparently.
That's not very scientific. Science isn't settled by democracy, right?
It's politics.
If the science were to back this up, it wouldn't be a matter of voting.
Didn't one of the FDA guys say he felt good about it?
They all feel good about it. I mean, it says here in the story from CNN that the committee spent an unusually long time speaking in support of the vaccine before they voted.
I wonder how many of them have, own shares of Pfizer or Moderna or Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Congress. How many of them own stocks in these companies? A lot of them do. Here's one that you are probably not surprised at all. Breakthrough.
Breakthrough as in
breakthrough infection.
You talking about Joe Biden's spokesperson?
Yeah, exactly. Double mask, double vaxxed.
At least they're admitting that breakthrough infections actually exist.
Yeah.
We're going to carry on with these new words that exist for 2021. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power. But there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to weigh in on some of these new words, or maybe change the subject, talk about whatever's important to you. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight is Aria, Conan, and Ian. And it's never a good idea to keep much cryptocurrency on your phone. Not only does that make it too easy to spend, but someone could hack your device or just outright take it from you. The question of how to safely store cryptocurrency was answered long ago, but now BitBox has given an even better answer. It's a hardware wallet that is completely open source, and it doesn't have some of the problems that other hardware wallets seem to have. Soon we'll be giving away 3 of the latest versions of the BitBox here on Free Talk Live. But if you don't want to wait or take your chances in a giveaway, head to box.freetalklive.com to purchase one of these hardware wallets and use code FTL for a 5% discount. That's box.freetalklive.com. Now, the latest word that Conan has shared with us that Webster has added to their dictionary is breakthrough, and I'm sort of surprised by this. It's not, from what I can tell, mainstream knowledge that people who have been vaccinated can still get COVID-19.
They've been using this word a lot. They had to come up with some word because it's happening a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you explain away this nonsense where so many people are vaxxed or actually coming in either positive cases and or actually getting sick?
A recent study showed that people...
Colin Powell, who just died, he was vaccinated.
He was also 84 years old.
Yes.
But a recent study showed that people within a household are as likely to get COVID-19 from people who are vaccinated as they are from people who are unvaccinated.
Yeah,
so there's no damn difference.
They're spreading spike proteins.
The only difference is you're putting something that you don't know what the hell it is in your veins. That's the difference between the unvaccinated and the vaccinated.
To be fair, I don't really know what COVID-19 is either, but I've had it and I came out just fine. So
it's a coronavirus.
It is. It's a cold, and the only real inconvenience was losing my sense of smell and taste for like a 7-week period, which
zinc.
was...
You were zinc deficient. That's probably what that was.
I don't know what causes the... I think I read something like it binds to the receptors, and I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, so this makes sense, but it is a new word. Breakthrough, the way that they're using it anyways, a breakthrough case.
Sure.
They had to come up with something. Otherwise, they would be completely lying, as in saying nothing about what's actually going on. So yeah, breakthrough cases.
I don't think it matters. The average person just doesn't seem to be aware of the reality that if they are vaccinated, they can still get and spread COVID-19 and still get hospitalized and still die of it.
Well,
even though the media isn't even covering up that reality.
Well, yeah, except they'll spin it like this. Yeah, you can still get it, but your chances of being really sick from it are far shorter than what could happen if you don't get the vaccine.
Unless you're one of the people who COVID-19 is likely to kill in the first place, like an 84-year-old.
You mean like the ones
Conan
they're suggesting get the 4th shot?
Yes. And the ones that are likely to die of it no matter how many of these shots they get, and the ones that are still dying of COVID-19 no matter how many shots they get. It's almost, I'm not saying this is the case, but it's almost as if the vaccine does absolutely nothing.
It's hard to prove that it does anything at all. It's truly a belief. It's a religious belief among those who are vaccinated that if they come down with COVID, as many of them have done, as the spokesperson for the White House,
Jen Psaki,
came down with apparently this week, and she's saying the standard religious line of, oh boy, it sure was a good thing I got vaccinated. Otherwise, it would have been way worse.
That reminds me of a story that I brought in yesterday that we didn't actually get into, that we should get into at some point tonight, of people just wildly overestimating how much of a threat COVID-19 is to them. Like something like 50% of Democrats think that there is a 50% chance of them having to be hospitalized if they get COVID-19, when the reality is it's like you have a 1% chance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They're on another planet. And
But it's not just Democrats. So Republicans also, like 28% of Republicans thought the chances were also 50% or higher.
These people are victims of the ongoing media crusade to just pimp this misinformation. And, of course, label us as misinformation as well.
They absolutely are. I mean, I can imagine sincerely believing that there was a 50% chance that this thing was going to put me in the hospital and possibly kill me, because the data doesn't support that. But it doesn't matter. None of this has been about data or science for a very long time.
Yeah, it doesn't have to do with Jen Psaki. I mean, what is she? In her 40s, maybe? She didn't look too old.
I don't even think she's that old.
Yeah, I mean, late 30s, early 40s.
Someone who'll be just fine.
Yeah, has nothing to do with the fact that she's a young person in likely relatively good health. I mean, she's not obese. So that's not the reason why she got through it. It's because she took the vaccine. That's the reason. And it's truly just a religious belief. There's no evidence for this, considering that the evidence shows that vaccinated people can get people infected just as much as unvaccinated people can. So,
well, they're creating hypothetical realities here that they can't prove. I mean, it's just a hypothetical. Oh, it would have been worse if I didn't get vaccinated, but they have literally no basis for that.
And you couldn't possibly know, because you can't compare two different lifetimes, one in which you got the vaccine and one in which you didn't. So it's impossible to actually know.
Is this Schrodinger's COVID?
But it does make it literally a religious belief.
Yes.
Because they simply believe it, they assert it as fact, and there's no possible way they could prove it one way or the other.
I mean, this only makes sense. I mean, there is a void. People in this country, in this world, are filling a void in their lives with this new science, religion, scientism. It only makes sense to me.
I saw a guy in the grocery store the other day.
These hypnotized people. These people are hypnotized. They are, I don't blame them at all.
There was a guy with a mask on in the grocery store the other day. I was in Market Basket, and he had on a T-shirt that said, "Science, it's like magic, but real."
And I'm sure
that's a stupid shirt.
And I'm sure he has faith in his science.
Well, clearly, right? He's wearing the mask.
Which, by the way, that's not how science works.
He couldn't have been over 45.
You should never just believe in science when you wake up in the morning because it's in a book or some authority on the TV told you. That's not how science works. Science is supposed to be questioned.
Constantly questioned, constantly testing and retesting.
Here's another one that's been thrown around for the last couple of months. Super spreader. It's got a hyphen in there. An event or location at which a significant number of people contract the same communicable disease. Now, it used to be...
At least they didn't mention COVID-19.
Yeah, exactly. They're covering their bases. It used to be somebody, a person, an individual who spreads a disease. Now it's an event.
It used to be known as a party or a concert.
Yeah, which we don't want. Metaverse doesn't want you going to parties anymore unless it's in this new digital
they
horizon.
Want you loaded up on a VR set in your living room all by yourself.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
I'm sorry, Ian. Your tiny home doesn't have room for a living room. It's your bedroom / kitchen / bathroom. I don't even know. I'm seeing these guys. With the Oculus, and they're doing all their gaming and whatnot, waving their arms around. I don't think the tiny homes are big enough for all of that. I don't know what they're going to do.
You're suggesting they're going to put people in smaller and smaller homes?
The people are clamoring to put themselves in these tiny homes.
Well, I don't know if they're that big of a
It's a fad.
trend.
It is a fad, and by the way, it's a scam. It's a scam, people. We should talk about
what's the scam?
Tiny homes. Let's talk about that after some more words from our friends
Do
here
you
at
think tiny
Merriam-Webster.
homes are a scam? 603-283-6160. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says limiting the rise of the Earth's temperature below 1.5 degrees Celsius is now a matter of life and death for the planet. He was speaking on the second day of the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow, ahead of the departure of President Biden and other world leaders who kicked the 12-day conference off. Thousands of experts and negotiators remain to debate solutions, as FSN's Chris Jones reports from the summit itself in Glasgow.
Over the past 2 days, we've heard numerous pledges towards reducing the rate of the world's rising temperature. And even though they're ambitious targets, Prime Minister Boris Johnson say they must be more than just talk.
Those commitments will be 100% useless if the promises made here are not followed up with real action.
People all around the world will be hoping change will come from this summit. If not, it may be too late.
Stunning news from Silicon Valley. Facebook says it's shutting down its facial recognition system. The social media giant says it's responding to growing concerns about the use of its technology. From FSN's bureau in Silicon Valley, Ira Spitzer reports.
Facebook's newly named parent company Meta says it's deleting the face scan data of more than 1 billion users. The facial recognition system has fueled privacy concerns, raising questions about how much facial data Facebook had collected and what the company could do with the information. Facebook says more than a third of its daily active users opted into the system, which allows the app to automatically identify people in photos and videos. The removal of the facial recognition templates of more than 1 billion people is expected to be complete by December.
The government of Ethiopia has declared a nationwide state of emergency after rebels from the Tigray People's Liberation Front captured more territory, some of it just 250 miles from the capital Addis Ababa. Rebel forces say they will seek to enter the city. From FSN's bureau there, Coletta Wanjohi reports.
The government says the emergency declaration is intended to protect citizens from being attacked by the Tigray People's Liberation Front, a rebel group that the federal government has been fighting. The rebels have captured at least 2 major cities in Amhara, a region that borders Tigray where the fighting began. Areas captured are close to 400 kilometers to the capital city, Addis Ababa, and the TPLF have threatened to enter the city. Another rebel group, the Oromo Liberation Army, has said it has encircled the capital.
A cryptocurrency based on the wildly popular Netflix program Squid Game has been revealed to be an apparent scam. It's thought investors have lost more than 3 million real US dollars after the digital token known as Squid collapsed in value. There will be another along in a minute. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to join us. There's so much to talk about. Like, last night we didn't even get into the Disneyland lockdown in Shanghai, China.
Yeah, like 33,000 people or something?
Yeah, can you imagine? You're just going to Disneyland to have a good time, and suddenly they just close the park, and you're trapped there by the order of the Chinese government until everyone is tested for COVID-19. And as I understand it, this was because of one person testing positive somewhere in Shanghai. Absolutely bizarre. Of course, Christopher Cantwell, who used to be on the show here, is again making headlines, this time for using his civil trial that's happening in, I think, Virginia. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Charlottesville.
To rant about Antifa, which is more or less what I would expect from Chris Cantwell, having met the guy, rambling on about Antifa. I want to see a transcript because
I believe there are transcripts being made available. There are also there's a phone line, which is really unusual for a federal court hearing because they normally don't want any media whatsoever to have any kind of recording device inside federal courtrooms.
This is a federal hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a federal lawsuit, as I understand it.
I thought it was a state matter for whatever reason.
And so normally in federal court, you can't bring in a camera, you can't bring in an audio recorder, you can't bring in, anything except a pen and a piece of paper. But for whatever reason, they're allowing people to call in and listen to the audio feed over a phone line. So the other day, I actually was listening to Cantwell's opening statement, and it was like listening to an episode of Radical Agenda. He's got himself an audience, and he's going to do what Cantwell's going to do. It was pretty entertaining.
It sounds like it was. I hate I missed it. But let's go to the phones. We have Dave calling from RidleyReport.com.
This is supposed to go for like a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dave, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, okay, so apparently it looks like some New Hampshire banks are finally standing up to the feds.
Oh, really?
It was an article in the Concord Monitor, and of course maybe they've done something in the past that I don't know about, but it's an article by a banker, Christy Merrill from the New Hampshire Bankers Association. Yeah, she's the president of the New Hampshire Bankers Association. So she's saying that the banks are fighting, and she's fighting via this editorial against IRS reporting requirements. Basically, they were going to make it so that every New Hampshire bank had to report every transaction or at least every account that was over $600.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so she said that. The administration has now agreed to change that threshold to $10,000, but the banks, I guess, are still fighting it.
So hold on. They initially set the bar at $600, and then they were like, okay, you're right, that's too low. We're going to increase it to $10,000 because there's a monumental difference between a $600 transaction and a $10,000 transaction.
I think they were just seeing what they can get away with. 600 is low. That's a low bar.
Yeah, I tend to agree. They were trying to see what they could do.
And there was a lot of backlash from everybody, not just bankers, not just us. Everyone was complaining about that.
Bankers are already filling out a ton of reports every single day for transactions over $10,000, and this would just, burden them times a million or whatever. I mean, it'd be crazy.
So they're raising the limit to $10,000, but isn't that already the reporting limit?
Are they raising the limit to $10,000? Because, there's a cash transaction report limit at $10,000. It's been there for many years.
Dave said they increased the threshold from $600 to $10,000.
Yes.
Okay.
She says, quote, the Biden administration originally proposed a requirement that financial institutions annually report inflows and outflows of all accounts valued at $600 or more to the IRS. Recently, due to concerns raised, the administration has agreed to change that threshold to $10,000 and would include carve-outs for wages in federal programs, unquote.
So do they have to have a total of $10,000 going through their account over a year? Or do they have to have a $10,000 balance at some point throughout that year?
It's an inflow or an outflow. So if you move $10,000, whether you give it to somebody,
but does it have to be all at once,
or you even send it from your checking account to your saving account? It has to be a $10,000 move. At this moment in time.
So it can't be like a paycheck where you get paid like, I don't know, $500 per week, and after 20 weeks you've hit that $10,000, so suddenly you have to be reported?
No, it has to be one $10,000 move.
One of our chatters in Twitch is saying it's $10,000 annual.
Well, here's my question:
it ain't done yet. Whatever.
Who were the banks reporting to before this? Before the administration?
The Treasury Department.
What was it?
I believe so.
Well, I don't think they were reporting, some of the, $10,000 bank accounts over the course of a year. That's not a whole lot of money for anyone who's working a job.
That's everyone who's working a job, basically.
Yeah, you're going to hit that cap relatively soon, within 2 or 3 months at the most. So this would essentially apply to everyone if it's $10,000 annually. So it's not any better as far as I can tell.
Well, it's not as bad as every $600. I mean, that's definitely worse. But it's not like the IRS can't just go to the bank and demand the bank's records anyway. They can do that if they want to.
Yeah, but that's a lot of work, Ian. That's like a FOIA request. It's, paperwork and stuff. They want it automatically coming across their desk so they can just see who is flipping switches.
Do they have the manpower for that? Because every other government agency seems to not have the manpower to do these sorts of things.
They have enough money to have their own SWAT teams.
That's true.
And enough manpower to do all that. But no, they
still have all of that though?
I'm sure they do. But
I don't know, man.
But I'm thinking this is to basically remove the middleman, so they don't have to have someone calling on the phone, calling a bank, say, "Can you give me the information on John Smith?" No, they want this automatically coming across their feed, so they can just they can just see everything is going down.
So this banking lady, Dave, she says she admits that the Biden administration raised the limit, but she's saying it still shouldn't be a thing. Is that correct?
I'm not clear if she's opposing the $10,000 thingy or not. For all I know, she thinks that's okay. I haven't exhaustively read this letter, but it's just like we don't have, from a company, we don't have to have heroism. From an industry, we do not have to have heroism. We just have to have them speaking out a little bit, raising concerns, and occasionally fighting the government a little bit using the tame means that are available to them. That's all I think customers should ask from companies. And for a long time, the banks have not been giving that to us. And at least these folks are at least trying to at least pretend like they're fighting back.
Well, that's good news, at least. I'm certainly no fan of banks. Some of the locally owned banks here in New Hampshire and some of the credit unions and stuff like that, they do seem to be somewhat less evil than like J.P. Morgan or Wells Fargo or Bank of America or whoever. But
sure, they need to know who their customers are. They usually call you by name. They recognize you when you come in. I mean, it's definitely a much more personal experience to run a local bank, but every single one of them is regulated by the Bank Secrecy Act and the federal government from top to bottom, the Federal Reserve. They're all members of the same organization.
Yes, which makes them all ultimately evil, really. Because
sadly,
the banking system itself is evil.
They're doing the government's bidding.
And now they want to apply that to stablecoins, something else worth talking about that you have. They want basically to treat stablecoins producers and so on as banks and force them to have fractional reserves and stuff like that. From the article I saw about it, even though banks in the modern financial system in the year 2021 are not required to have any sort of reserve to prove that they have the cash they're supposed to have.
I would be surprised if they wanted to force them into fractional reserve, because that would actually be a really bad policy. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, I guess, if they ended up going that direction. But I do have a story about that if you want to talk about it.
We can talk about it later. Let's carry on with this list of new words. Conan, I assume you have more of them you wanted to talk about.
There's a couple more. I'm going to skip right on down to politics. And the first word on the political list is whataboutism.
I don't know it.
Which I've heard getting thrown around, but I wasn't really sure what it really meant. Except a lot of, especially people on the left use it.
Don't know it. What is it?
The act or practice of responding to an accusation of wrongdoing by claiming that an offense committed by another is similar or worse.
Oh.
Straw manning.
Well, I did this, but this guy was worse because he did that. Okay.
603-283-6160 if you'd like to join us. There's a few more of these new political words that are worth getting into. It's Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You can't win if you don't enter, and you actually can improve your chances of winning a prize drawing if you wrinkle up your entry blank. I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com, and I speak from experience. Why this works: if they'll be spinning the drum before drawing, your entry blank will move around more than, and not adhere to, other perfectly flat entry blanks. And if they don't spin the drum and merely reach into a box full of other perfectly flat entry blanks, many of which are sticking together, yours will feel different to the person reaching in. When you win, act surprised. And if you're looking for work, this is a metaphor. For more tips on sticking out in a world where just too much blends into the blah, 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 hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live with Aria, Conan, and Ian, and we invite you to join us, share your thoughts and opinions. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up, so much to talk about. Chris Cantwell is being entertaining. There's stories about him. There's stable coins and how regulators are saying, oh, the clock is ticking. We have to go after these things. And the big surprise to me, Facebook actually getting rid of their facial recognition system. We're going to get into all of that. But first, we're going over the new words for 2021 that Webster is presenting to the world. The most recent was whataboutism, which I've heard before, but not recently, and I can't remember the context of the last time that I really heard it frequently.
I think people are just throwing it around. I don't know that they even know what it meant. I never knew what it meant.
I think it was a lot more common last year than this year.
Yeah. Some of these seem like they've, like here, prime example. I've been hearing this for years, and they've just decided to add it this month. AstroTurf.
Yeah, that is
That's an oldie. Basically,
what does it mean?
Basically, your political campaign is funded by outside forces.
That's AstroTurf,
as opposed to grassroots would be.
You mean big money
locals.
outside forces?
Yeah, anybody who is not basically grassroots in your localized vicinity.
Don't they also try to make it look like it's localized? Like they take all this big money in, but then they try to make it, falsely appear as though it's grassroots.
Definitely. Or they'll funnel the money to someone who is local and have them spend the money in a local grassroots kind of way.
Hence the term AstroTurf.
Correct.
It looks at a glance like it might be grassroots, but it's not.
Correct.
I mean, that's been a thing since like the Tea Party, so they finally have a word for it. Okay. Well,
no,
better late than never.
They've decided to add it for whatever reason.
Okay, fair point.
I mean, the word has been floating around. Wikipedia's probably
I've never
had
heard it
an
used in
entry
that
forever.
context, but I don't pay much attention to campaign financing.
Here's a word. I've never used it. I've never really seen it used all that often. And this is something that I really despise about the legislative process.
That they exist?
But specifically how they introduce bills. And it's called a votorama. And basically an unusually large number of debates and votes that happen in one day on a single piece of legislation to which an unlimited number of amendments can be introduced, debated on, and voted on. Basically,
sounds awful.
Basically, I think it's like a carry-on bill or something. It's where they just add all kinds of nonsense instead of just voting on one thing.
Yeah,
they introduce all kinds of amendments and they add all kinds of pork.
Yeah.
And so
everybody gets to slap their thing on there, and then they all vote for it.
And there's one thing that you can't vote on that you feel is something that your constituents would not be proud of if you did, and you decide there's so much good. There's 99 things that are good, and there's one that's bad. So what do? Do you not vote on it? Do you go the libertarian route and not vote on it because it's got one evil in it and 99 good?
I would vote no.
I would, but a lot of people aren't. You are you?
Sure.
And they want those 99 things.
I also don't ever intend to take an office where I can actually vote on a piece of legislation. So
here's some new foods, and my boss is already chomping at the bit because she saw this, and she knows how badly I feel about it. It's called a fluffernutter.
Oh no! I know what this is.
It's like a marshmallow fluff sandwich.
Yeah.
I didn't know it involved peanut butter. I thought
didn't
it was,
know that either.
But I knew that it had the marshmallow stuff. This stuff that you can buy in a jar, and it's just
it's
like
a Massachusetts.
It looks
thing,
horrifying.
Isn't it?
It's like sticky nastiness.
I'm not a big fan of marshmallows to begin with, and I sure as hell don't want a sandwich full of them.
Wait, marshmallows, peanut butter, and bread. No.
I just don't get it. I don't feel it. But I mean,
it's for people that just love eating candy.
I'll eat a peanut butter sandwich.
Sure.
But the fluff, leave the fluff off.
See, now if it was a graham cracker or something like that, I could get on board with it as a snack, not as a meal. But sure, if you want to take a graham cracker and slap some marshmallow and peanut butter, I'm not going to judge you.
I'll do a s'more with you, no problem. Get the campfire going, and
but 2 pieces of Wonder Bread.
Yeah, no, that's.
Oh, is that what's required too? You have to have Wonder Bread, so it's straight up white from top to bottom.
Oh yeah.
Blech.
Blech.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely horrible.
Skipping down to
I know they're popular here.
They are.
Really?
And I had never. Oh yeah.
I've never met a person who has ever, at least prepared one in front of me, or I've never.
They sell them at the Mighty Moose Mart.
They bring them to the potlucks. They bring them to the parties.
Oh my God.
Someone's always making them.
I've never had one, and I don't intend to ever eat one.
Never.
Here is some new pop culture words. Otaku.
Oh, that's like a Asian fan, right? Like a fan of
it's
manga.
An obsessive person in the field of anime and manga.
Person who's like, they've got
what
the
happened
body
to
pillow.
Weeb? Weeb was just
Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah.
Isn't a weeb specifically somebody who's obsessed with the female
Maybe.
Is this a variant
I'll
of
have to check
dweeb?
that one.
It's shorthand for weeaboo.
Weeaboo.
Yeah.
Ian's going to look that
I'll
one
look it up.
I'm going to check up my next word, which is not a new word, dad bod.
Yeah, that's definitely not new.
D-A-D-B-O-D.
And that's just like a
just
dad bod. I don't know how to describe it. It's a dad bod. That's not new, though.
A physique regarded as typical of an average father.
Yeah.
Weeaboo is defined as a non-Japanese person who's obsessed with Japanese culture.
Huh.
Okay, so this is anime
But this
and
is just
manga
this is just
specifically.
anime. So anybody, and by the way, I have actually met weeaboos.
Oh,
yeah, I know a few.
Oh, yeah. They're very common nowadays amongst younger people, I think.
For whatever reason, they always seem to be big old white girls.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Or really nerdy, awkward white dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my buddies I used to work with, he actually got a job as a translator and he and his girlfriend went to Japan for, I think they were there for like 3 years.
They're definitely not always white people. You can find people of all
No,
different...
definitely not always. But in my experience,
It's
a lot of them are.
It's a very interesting racist culture. As in they don't like us.
The definition...
No, I take that back. It's a very interesting circular reaction that they really, really love Western culture, and at the same time they don't want to have anything to do with us. They want to see it. They want to view us from afar.
I don't think it's fair to use the same term to describe, the 250-pound white chick who just loves manga with the 18-year-old nerd who lives in his mom's basement who has a waifu. I don't think it's fair to use the same word.
And what's a waifu?
What's a waifu?
An imaginary wife, an anime imaginary wife that they
don't they have body pillows as well?
Yeah, they
of like the anime characters that they sleep with.
Yeah, some of them do.
Now, would that be that would be an otaku?
That'd be an otaku. My buddy who went over there.
It would be a weeaboo as well.
Could be. Well, maybe a weeaboo is an unhealthy obsession with Japan and Japanese culture, so that could include anime, but doesn't necessarily have to. They typically, according to Urban Dictionary, which almost always has good definitions for these things, they typically ignore or even shun their own racial and cultural identity. So these are people just defining a person who has gone all in and is like identifying as Japanese.
I don't know anyone like that.
I don't know anyone like that either.
The key words there was unhealthy.
Yeah.
I know some people who I would call weebs, but they're not anywhere near to that extent.
I mean, it is Urban Dictionary, so you decide.
I trust Urban Dictionary more than, say, Webster's all right, I guess.
Urban Dictionary usually has pretty good definitions. So what else does Webster has for us?
That's about it. Doorbell camera. That's kind of a new thing. More and more people are getting them.
That is, and it's so creepy, man. I don't like the idea of doorbells in the first place because I would rather just not. Because if you go to a doorbell, there's like a 30% chance that the doorbell actually works and a 70% chance that it doesn't. Whereas knocking on the door, it always works. But
I don't like them at all, and I have a lot of customers on my route that have them, and it's always just I haven't gotten used to the shock of having the door talk to me.
I haven't experienced. Yes, I have experienced
usually
that.
to thank me. Thanks, mailman. But it's when the door just talks to you, and here I am looking around corners.
Is it an intercom? Is the person on the inside speaking? Or
I don't know. That's the thing. These people could be at work talking on their phone through their what is it?
But you think it's the customer, like the person who's from the home speaking, or is it like a robot voice?
No. It's an actual person.
Okay.
So they're probably at work, or they might even be up in the living room or something. But basically, I think these things sense movement.
Right.
And they will notify the user that someone's on their doorstep, and they watch it all.
Well,
even if they're just sitting on their couch in the living room, and that's my concern with all of this stuff is that I think COVID-19 is just being used as an excuse for lazy people who want to be antisocial.
Oh yeah,
to be more lazy and more antisocial. Because now they don't even have to get up.
Arya, the metaverse.
They don't have to speak to you.
The metaverse.
It's coming.
You're going to be strapped in your chair with your Oculus on.
Not if I have anything to say about it.
Going out to the club. Going out to the club tonight, babe? Yep. In the metaverse.
You might be able to strap her to the chair, but I don't know.
I will go to an actual club, thanks. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says limiting the rise of the Earth's temperature below 1.5 degrees Celsius is now a matter of life and death for the planet. He was speaking on the second day of the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow, ahead of the departure of President Biden and other world leaders who kicked the 12-day conference off. Thousands of experts and negotiators remain to debate solutions, as FSN's Chris Jones reports from the summit itself in Glasgow.
Over the past 2 days, we've heard numerous pledges towards reducing the rate of the world's rising temperature. And even though they're ambitious targets, Prime Minister Boris Johnson say they must be more than just talk.
Those commitments will be 100% useless if the promises made here are not followed up with real action.
People all around the world will be hoping change will come from this summit. If not, it may be too late.
Stunning news from Silicon Valley. Facebook says it's shutting down its facial recognition system. The social media giant says it's responding to growing concerns about the use of its technology. From FSN's bureau in Silicon Valley, Ira Spitzer reports.
Facebook's newly named parent company Meta says it's deleting the face scan data of more than 1 billion users. The facial recognition system has fueled privacy concerns, raising questions about how much facial data Facebook had collected and what the company could do with the information. Facebook says more than a third of its daily active users opted into the system, which allows the app to automatically identify people in photos and videos. The removal of the facial recognition templates of more than 1 billion people is expected to be complete by December.
The government of Ethiopia has declared a nationwide state of emergency after rebels from the Tigray People's Liberation Front captured more territory, some of it just 250 miles from the capital Addis Ababa. Rebel forces say they will seek to enter the city. From FSN's bureau there, Coletta Wanjohi reports.
The government says the emergency declaration is intended to protect citizens from being attacked by the Tigray People's Liberation Front, a rebel group that the federal government has been fighting. The rebels have captured at least 2 major cities in Amhara, a region that borders Tigray where the fighting began. Areas captured are close to 400 kilometers to the capital city, Addis Ababa, and the TPLF have threatened to enter the city. Another rebel group, the Oromo Liberation Army, has said it has encircled the capital.
A cryptocurrency based on the wildly popular Netflix program Squid Game has been revealed to be an apparent scam. It's thought investors have lost more than 3 million real US dollars after the digital token known as Squid collapsed in value. There will be another along in a minute. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at how the world should judge COP26, the climate summit which opened on Monday in Glasgow and continues to hear a host of worthy speeches from world leaders promising change. But will they deliver? And what are the mechanisms for this conference once the opening addresses are over and the leaders themselves have left Glasgow? Sarah Mukherjee is the CEO of the Institute of Environmental Management. It's a body for professionals studying sustainability.
This first day is always the kind of set piece. So you've got, world leaders they know they have an incredibly high profile audience in the room. Everybody sitting there is a world leader or a thought leader. But it's really at the end of this leaders summit in the next couple of days where the real work is going to be done, where the international delegates will start doing the horse trading and start trying to really knit together a deal, which we all hope will show some real action. That's certainly what our members are telling us. They want to see something tangible come out of these talks.
The British government hosting the event wants a global commitment to ensure net zero carbon emissions by the year 2050. But as the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi indicated in his speech on Monday, that may be a tough climb. India, he says, won't achieve that goal until 20 years later. The main news again. At COP26, Prime Minister Boris Johnson says limiting the rise of the Earth's temperatures below 1.5 degrees Celsius is a matter of life and death for the planet. The Ethiopian government has declared a nationwide state of emergency after rebels said they will seek to enter the capital, Addis Ababa. And Facebook is shutting down its facial recognition system and deleting 1 billion pictures from its database in a bid, it says, to address privacy concerns. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
It's the Onion Radio News. Teen sex is linked to alcohol and drugs by the Center for Figuring Out Really Obvious Things. This is Doyle Redland reporting. An exhaustive 4-year, $23 million study of substance abuse and sexual habits of more than 2,500 American teens has confirmed that young people between the ages of 13 and 18 who drink and or use drugs are more likely to be sexually active. Dr. Gerald Eckersley is director of the Boston-based organization.
We found that this phenomenon also occurs among adults as well as every population everywhere in the world that has ever existed since the dawn of time.
The center has sent a teleprompter-ready press release of its findings to more than 400 local TV news affiliates across the U.S., along with stock video footage of beer displays and teens smoking and drinking at parties. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, where you're invited to join us. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to weigh in. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And Ian, you have a story update about Christopher Cantwell, the infamous crying Nazi. Yes.
Yeah. He is in the middle of what is expected to be a very lengthy civil trial in federal court in the District of Virginia, Charlottesville.
Now, what is a civil trial? That means he's not being charged with something. He's being sued, correct?
He and several other Nazi right-wing folks are being sued. People who participated in the Charlottesville protest, what do they call it? Unite the Right, I think it was, back in 2017. Yeah. Which is where Chris really kind of blew up and made a lot of press coverage. There was the Vice short documentary thing that featured him. Actually, there was more than one from Vice that featured him.
And that was because he was arrested and he released a video or something from jail where he was crying, and he became known as the Crying Nazi.
He wasn't crying.
I thought it was because he got gassed and he was sitting there dripping all over himself on the side of the road.
There was more than one crying event for Chris. He got tear gas, which anybody's going to tear up in that situation.
You can't control that.
But it was later on. He was making a video from, I think it was his hotel room at the time. This was, I think, before he was arrested, where he was pleading and crying to his viewers about what it was. I don't recall. Anyway, that's what got him labeled the crying Nazi. He's formerly a host on this show. He used to be a libertarian comedian who was critical of the police.
He was a comedian?
Yeah, he did some really popular comedy sets at the Porcupine Freedom Festival many years ago. This was before he became right-wing Nazi,
obviously
racist Chris Cantwell. And sadly, he went in that direction after some number of years. And I've written extensively about him over at freekeene.com. So if you just type in Cantwell into freekeene.com in the search, you'll find a whole lot of background and looking at what has happened to this character over the years. But today.
Well, before we get into the article, let's go to the phones. We have Drake calling from Colorado. Drake, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Drake. What's on your mind?
So I was listening to your show last night, and Tom called in talking about the mayoral race in Keene, and I think the incumbent might have had someone run against Aria just so they didn't have to run against Aria.
No, I was one of the last ones to file. Zukowski filed several days before I did.
This is the alleged stalker, the man who is alleged to have stalked a city employee by creeping her out at work and then following her home, or actually coming to her home and taking photographs and knocking incessantly on the door. This was the person who beat you in the primary, Aria, by about 24 votes.
And by the way, he is also the suspect owner of all of the crazy signs that are out there. Vote Hansel in the incumbent. So we can be more like Washington.
And so taxes can be raised as well.
They're very, very interesting signs that are out there right now.
I mean, I kicked around the idea of running one of my cats for mayor or a deep fake or something like that. But, some stuff happened in March and all of that got kicked on the back burner and I didn't think anything more about it until Ian asked me one day, hey, are you going to file for mayor? And I was like, yeah, sure. So it was a very spur of the moment decision. Hansel couldn't possibly have known.
That's the current mayor.
Yes, he couldn't possibly have known that I was going to file for mayor because I didn't even know until like 2 days before, or maybe 3 or 4 days before I filed.
So that's kind of what set me off going in with those weird signs. I just wanted to draw a parallel. I lived in Columbia, Missouri in 2012, and Gary Nolan has a libertarian talk show there. I think he ran as a libertarian candidate in, 96 or 2000. I don't think he got the nod, but anyways. He had a radio show, and I remember Claire McCaskill was running for governor again. I forget his name, but I remember she made commercials, ads. I'd hear about the Republican, about how he's too fiscally conservative. He doesn't want to spend.
You're breaking up and going in and out. Can you wrap it up?
Anyway, he was a plant. McCaskill planted him, and I just feel maybe that's what's going on there.
Yeah,
well, thank you for the thought, Drake.
It's not uncommon to have Republicans infiltrating the Libertarian Party. That's what we've had basically as political presidential candidates for the last several elections, with the exception of Joe Jorgensen in 2020. It was Gary Johnson in 2016, Gary Johnson in 2012. He was the former Republican governor of New Mexico. And then prior to him, Bob Barr, who was even worse.
He was a drug warrior,
He was a drug warrior based out of Georgia who was a U.S. representative for a number of years. I mean, so it's definitely true that the Republicans will do their best to try to take over and water down the Libertarian Party, and they've been fighting internally in the Libertarian Party for as long as I can remember with these Republicans, and it's just frustrating to be there. Now the what they call the Mises Caucus has had some success in kind of taking some power back in the Libertarian Party, but it's just always going endless conflict, and it's just so frustrating for people involved in it. I walked away from it in 2008, and I do support the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, but the National Libertarian Party is a total waste of time. And I think what's actually turned out to be quite a success for libertarians is moving to New Hampshire and coming together in one geographic area where we can flip the script on the Republicans and actually invade the Republican Party. And I think to some extent the Democrat Party. The Democrats have figured out that we've been invading the Free Staters, the libertarians here have been invading the Republican Party and actually having success, because we've got like 40 plus of them that are elected to state house seats, and they're almost all of them, I think, are all Republicans. So the leftists have been sending out social media about, oh my God, the libertarians are taking over the Republican Party and blah blah blah. It's terrible, and they're really freaking out about it. And I said the other day, I'm like, well, I wonder how many of them have invaded the Democrat Party, and they're just keeping real quiet about it. I mean, there must be people who've moved here, the thousands of libertarians who've moved here as part of the Free State Project, and those who've moved just because they don't want to join the Free State Project. They moved anyway, like you, Aria. I wonder how many of them have just joined the ranks of the Democrats and made themselves sound pretty leftist, pretty progressive, and they're just kind of fitting in and waiting for their chance to run for office. I don't know. I bet it's happened.
I don't know if I would support that because that seems kind of deceitful. I do,
but it's politics. I agree with you. I don't want to play that game personally, but I don't think it's wrong for somebody to deceive the political structure in order to garner votes. I mean, ultimately, you didn't do that when you ran for sheriff last year, but effectively you did because people are so ignorant. Like, you didn't hide any of your beliefs. Had somebody looked you up, they'd have found out about you. But just because you ran as a Republican, you beat the incumbent in the primary, and he tried to write in and beat you, but you beat him, and it made international headlines as a result of that. So I don't begrudge somebody who wants to play politics dirty if they're actually going to be like a pro-freedom person and they're principled, but it is politics. So what do you think?
Well, I don't know how many are subtly within the Democratic Party, but I know that's going to be my next political move because I don't really identify much with I don't identify much with the Democrats either.
Yeah.
But I would be...
It's frustrating to be in either one.
Yeah, I'd be slightly less ashamed to have a D next to my name than an R next to it.
Well,
just
with you,
ever so slightly.
It's going to be epic trolling either way because you trolled the hell out of the Republicans last year. If you, or when you change the Democratic Party and you show up and you're just unapologetically Aria, you're not you're like me. You're not going to try to fit in.
No.
You're going to be who you are. They're not going to know how to handle that because the Democrats are going to be much more like, oh, we've got a trans person who's here. Oh my God, welcome. And then they're going to hear what you believe, and then they're not going to know what to do.
Oh my God.
That worked out fairly well for me, though, when I did.
You like Dave Chappelle?
I mean, they're sort of disarmed, the leftists are, when they deal with me. Like if you or... Mark or somebody like that were to approach these Democrats, Conan, they would just shut you out as, oh, you're just another straight cis white male. They don't want to hear anything you have to say. But when someone like me approaches them with these ideas, they're more susceptible to them because their guard's not up. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It'll be interesting to see how that goes. It may be worth doing sooner rather than later. I don't know if I actually want to go to the Republican committee
I
thing
think you
in
have
New Hampshire.
to. You earned it. You should go. Unless you can assign it to somebody else, then I'll go.
It's Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Free Talk Live.
Dear FTL, we've got chemtrail down here in West Virginia. Be nice. You've never seen them? Contrail disappear relatively quickly compared to the chemtrail.
If anybody's listening that wants to fight the chemtrails, there's things called
What are you going to fight them? Wait a minute.
called
Big fans?
cloudbusters.
Wadbusters? I got to give UFO hoaxers more credit. At least they go out and build a little saucer and they tie it to a
cardboard
string.
saucer.
And yeah, I'd love to see a semi-legitimate website reporting anything on this particular issue. I don't think
you're going to get that.
I just asked semi-legitimate.
You want a doctor to say it? There's a bunch of websites.
Doctors. Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you're an expert or smart.
Or it doesn't even mean you're a doctor. Okay, go on my website later on tonight and I'll be Dr. Manwich, okay?
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and we've been telling you about how Intercoin can help any business or organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own token. Now, Intercoin has launched this investor token worldwide, and for the first time, it's available on an exchange. You can create an account at xmarkets.com, that's exmarkets.com, with just an email address, so you can keep your privacy intact. You can then deposit dozens of different cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, trade them for Tether, and then buy ITR, the Intercoin investor token. Learn more about the Intercoin vision at intercoin.org, and now buy or sell ITR on xmarkets.com, exmarkets.com. You just might be advancing the cause of liberty around the world. 603-283-6160 is the number if you want to join us. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria, Conan, and Ian, and let's go to the phones. We have CW who's listening on K-Talks. I think he actually works for K-Talks. CW, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes, I kind of do work for K-Talks, but not officially.
All right, gotcha.
Anyways, I just want to say something about exploitation versus toleration. You know, because you got the far right or the right that says, there might be Bible thumpers and all that crap, and they don't like the whole gay and trans stuff, but we will tolerate it because we need to have a community that works together. But then you have the left that says, "Ooh, we're going to exploit the trans and gay community." They want to make it so, what they say is what we need to do, because now these guys are speaking up and saying this is what their demands are. So they're exploiting that community versus the other side that's saying, you know what, we're going to tolerate it because we need a civil society. You know what I'm saying?
I would agree with that, but I definitely believe that the Bidens and the Pelosi's of the world are most definitely exploiting a segment of the population for their benefit.
Well,
but the question is, once they fill those ranks with say trans or gays or whatnot, they basically they're self-sufficient after that. Then they carry on with this mindset that they're only going to be accepting of people like them.
Well,
and they don't realize that they're being used.
I don't know how much the Bible thumpers are actually willing to tolerate trans people. In my experience, at least in the South, they're not willing to tolerate trans people, and in fact will inflict violence on them and, pray the gay away camps and things like that. The religious in other parts of the United States, like New Hampshire or whatever, they tend to be more tolerant.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right in that.
That's extreme when you say pray the gay away. Pray the gay away. That's extreme.
Bible thumper isn't extreme. I mean, your average Christian isn't a Bible thumper. A Bible thumper is your own class of Christian that are typically Southern Baptists. They're hardcore. They're beating the Bible, and it's the guideline. It's the guide to their entire life, and they think it should be your law as well.
Okay, well, those are the people that are trying to force their law onto you. But if you have, let's just say, people that want a civil society, okay, I'll say libertarian then. Maybe we just all want civil society. We don't care, as long as you're not announcing, oh, I'm trans, so listen to me, or I'm gay, this is my viewpoint. No, how about you do you, and we progress that way, versus exploiting them and saying, oh, this is what that community wants, so we have to listen to that community.
Anybody that says this is what a community wants already should be rejected, because no community is this sort of monolith. Every group of people is made up of individuals, and every individual wants something different. It's very rare that you'll find two people who want the exact same thing.
I was asked today by another trans person, what am I going to do next to antagonize the LGBTQ community? And I'm like, I am that community. As much, sure, there's a bunch of, trans people who are more upset with me than there are who, agree with me that the Dave Chappelle thing was actually pretty funny, not offensive at all, or whatever position I happen to take that they don't care for.
But the collective, Aria.
Yeah, but to act like there's just this single monolithic entity and you have to subscribe to its belief system 100%, otherwise you're not part of... I am literally trans. How dare any other trans person out there suggest I'm not part of the, quote, trans community when I'm literally a trans person?
I actually find the word community to be offensive. The idea that you're going to lump in, like the black community, the gay community, the trans community, that you're going to lump all of a huge swath of our population into one group.
It's ridiculous, and the mainstream media has been doing it for decades, like with the black community, and then they always have the go-to, quote, representatives like Jesse Jackson, as though he speaks for all black people, and it's the most insulting thing.
It's Al Sharpton now. Jesse Jackson's not around.
Whatever, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Though, right?
Al Sharpton does not represent the black community.
Right. There's a whole range of opinions within black people, and same thing's true of trans people, and so on.
Yeah, it's just a way of creating groupthink in people and
divisiveness.
Yes,
division.
Conan, I'm glad you said that. We are not Borg. We are not. Oh my gosh, Conan, I'm glad you said that. And that's all I had to say tonight. Thank you, guys.
Thanks
for listening, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for the call, man. He's absolutely right. I've never felt exploited by the trans community, but I watch Democrats every single day exploit the existence of trans people to push one agenda or another.
Sure.
And if you step outside of it, if you say, hey, if you disagree on any part of that,
excommunicated.
They're going to, put you on the pillory just like they would someone on the hard right, because you're just not allowed to deviate from whatever belief system they say you should have. Such as with Dave Chappelle. Now, evidently, there's a labor suit being filed against Netflix by two trans employees who presumably are saying that, I don't know, I haven't looked into it, but maybe I would imagine what they're arguing is
I've
that
got
this
the story
created...
right here. If you don't want to have to imagine it, I can just tell you.
Okay, but let me take a guess.
By the way, have we seen his latest stand-up?
Yes. I have seen it. Have you?
I did, just last week.
So
it was funny.
Let me take a guess.
It wasn't as funny as the last one because there was some sad moments.
Yeah,
for sure. True. And that's it, the fact that he had to go there, and he's still getting they're still trying to throw him off the bus.
Watch it.
They didn't. Well,
whoever they are, they probably didn't watch it. Anyway, what's your prediction?
They're going to say that this created an unsafe work environment. That's my prediction about what these trans Netflix employees have to say.
Are you ready?
Go.
Yes. USA Today reporting 2 transgender Netflix employees have filed labor charges against the streaming giant in the wake of the David Chappelle controversy, alleging the company retaliated against them for speaking out against the comedian's most recent special. Charges filed Wednesday with the National Labor Relations Board on behalf of B. Pagels Minor and Tara Field alleged Netflix fired Pagels Minor, who is non-binary, quote, based upon false and pretextual reasons, unquote, after they organized the October 20th company walkout in protest of the Chappelle special and Netflix's response to the controversy.
Hold on. If you walked out of your job, I have no sympathy for your employer firing you.
Yeah. Let's see. The document also states that Field, who identifies herself on Twitter as a senior software engineer at Netflix, has been, quote, subjected to retaliation and threats, unquote, for speaking out about Pagels Minor's wrongful termination. We can tell you more coming up.
Pagel walked out of the job, though.
They both technically did.
That's job abandonment. 603-283-6160 if you want to weigh in. There's more about what's going on with Netflix and Dave Chappelle, and like I said, I enjoyed it. It's Free Talk Live.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate. Results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great. Homelessness and hunger to eliminate. Let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's independent vaccine advisors have unanimously endorsed the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. That sets the stage for the vaccination of elementary school children in the United States. FSN's U.S. correspondent Rachel Silverman reports.
The panel voted 14-0 in favor of the shots, which the Food and Drug Administration authorized for children last week. The advisory committee said while the vaccines carry some risk for children, their benefits are greater. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky is expected to quickly endorse the administration of the shots, then health providers will be able to start administering them. Roughly 28 million children in the U.S. between the ages of 5 and 11 will be eligible for the vaccine.
U.S. President Joe Biden has criticized China's decision not to attend the COP26 climate summit, calling it a big mistake. Chinese leader Xi Jinping provided a written statement, but chose not to take part in the meeting of world leaders in Scotland. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
The president said that for China, the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gas, not showing up was a problem. And he slammed President Xi's decision to stay at home rather than travel to COP26.
I think it's been a big mistake, quite frankly, for China, with respect to China not showing up. The rest of the world is going to look to China and say, what value added are they providing? And they've lost an ability to influence people around the world and all the people here at COP.
President Biden was also asked if he was concerned about armed conflict with China, to which he said he was not. That's despite rising tensions with Beijing, increased aggression in the South China Sea, and questions about exactly if and how the US would defend Taiwan if China invaded the island.
Ethiopia has declared a nationwide state of emergency following threats from rebel forces that they are planning to enter the capital city, Addis Ababa. There has been intensive fighting in parts of the country's north, with the rebels, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, taking control of some major cities. FSN's Coletta Wanjohi reports from Addis Ababa.
The state of emergency has been declared by the Council of Ministers. It is expected to be approved by Parliament within 48 hours, and rules of the period are yet to be spelt out. The government says the emergency declaration is intended to protect citizens from being attacked by the Tigray People's Liberation Front, a rebel group that the federal government has been fighting in Ethiopia's north for a year now. The rebels have captured at least 2 major cities in Amhara, a region that borders Tigray where the fighting began. Areas captured are close to 400 kilometers to the capital city, Addis Ababa, and the TPLF have threatened to enter the city.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and you're invited to join us, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And as much as I did enjoy the latest Dave Chappelle special called The Closer, when I was finally able to see it, I did see someone comment something recently on Facebook that was actually a really good insight into what's going on. Now, for those who don't remember, Dave Chappelle killed The Chappelle Show because he didn't, basically, to summarize, he didn't like the way that some white people were laughing about it.
What?
They were laughing at it in a mean-spirited kind of way, in a racist kind of way.
I thought he just got tired. He seemed burned out to me. And he went and played Warcraft in, where? You go, what?
I don't, I think Saudi Arabia?
Africa, somewhere?
I don't remember the details. But anyway, that's now his primary target audience. Those same people who used to laugh in a racist sort of way that he didn't like. He may not have quit the Chappelle Show because of it, but he called attention to it at one point or another. I don't remember because I was like in junior high then. But it was an issue to him that some people were laughing at it, and it was pretty clear they weren't laughing at it for the right reasons.
And he thinks that those same people...
No, he doesn't think that, but that's the reality of the situation. Those same racist people who are watching the Chappelle Show and laughing at it because they were racist are the same transphobic people who are now watching Dave Chappelle just because he's poking fun at trans people.
I would not say that is his primary audience. I mean, there's a tremendously large audience for Dave Chappelle, and those kind of people cannot be the majority of it. That's just not possible. I mean, the amount of money that Netflix is making off of these specials, the amount of viewers, there's a reason why Netflix isn't just up and throwing this guy to the curb.
Sure.
It's because he's
Too powerful.
tremendous.
Same reason Joe Rogan's still doing his thing.
He's the most popular
Primary
comic.
is probably not the right word. You're
He's
correct.
the most popular comic of our day. From what I can tell.
Yeah, and for good reason. His jokes are clever, and that's sort of the issue here, was that most people actually missed the punchlines in his jokes.
Now, he called this thing The Closer, and in multiple instances during his stand-up, he talked about, this is it, I'm done. What do you think all that? You think this is his last show, or do you think he was just specifically talking about the...
He's talking about the Netflix contract.
The contract.
Yeah, he's talking about his contract with Netflix.
Or was he also talking about transgender jokes in general? He's just not going to do them anymore.
No, from what I understand, he's fulfilled his agreement with Netflix, and he's on to the next thing, whatever that is.
Okay.
Maybe it's another contract with Netflix.
How many tens of millions of dollars does the guy need, though?
It depends on how he spends it. I mean,
exactly.
Some of these stars blow all the money on a bunch of big houses, and then they got nothing.
Well, from what he said during the special, I didn't think that was the case. He seems to live in some small town in,
yeah.
I think he said Ohio.
He seems to be doing well as far as his money is concerned.
And is that even Dave Chappelle?
What do you mean? Do you think it's a robot? Who else could it be?
I don't know. He's a lot thicker than he was. The guy is.
He's old.
The
man.
guy has he beefed up. He's been
working out. He's talking about working out, didn't he?
His voice has changed, and he beefed out.
I think he talked about going to the gym.
I didn't notice a change in his voice.
It's way deeper, way heavier.
Mm-hmm.
He had a little voice. He had a little whiny, high pitched voice. You don't recall?
It's 15 years since he done Chappelle Show, right?
And he smokes a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, he's in the news again. Well, he's not in the news, but Netflix employees walked out. They staged
trans go-tos on the Netflix staff that were making the noise after the Chappelle Show or the Chappelle special came out.
I would like to know what about this special they found so upsetting.
Oh, I'm sure.
I would love
back and
for any trans person out there to tell me what was it about this special that you found so upsetting?
They just don't like jokes.
They can't tell you, Arya, because they didn't watch it. It's just what they read. It's what they were told to think.
Some people can't take a joke. Some people can't take, jokes have a victim usually, and sometimes that victim is your group or whatever.
Woke culture can't handle jokes. The left can't meme. The left can't joke.
They have no sense of humor.
And it's not because they're not able to do it. It's because they're not allowed to do it. It's because their group, their community, has told them here's your list of rules. Here's the things that you can laugh at, and here are the things that are against you, that are against us.
Did you see the footage or some of the footage from the protest outside of Netflix, the one that's walkout that they're talking about?
This 1,000-person protest?
I don't know if it was 1,000 people from Netflix. I think there were a lot of people from the outside that came to. It could have just been these two.
You mean like AstroTurf?
And then a bunch of other people who were supporters of them.
Well, that's usually the way
it
works.
Did you see any of the footage from it?
I haven't seen it.
There's one guy that comes up with like a counter protester sign, and they literally attack him, rip his sign, smash the stick, and they push him away. They don't hurt him. I don't think they hurt him in any significant way, but they destroyed his property.
Yeah.
And it was very, very rude. So they've filed charges with the National Labor Relations Board, these two Netflix employees, one of whom was fired, the other wasn't for whatever reason. So it probably is that they wanted to fire this other person, and this was their excuse, because otherwise they would have fired them both for walking out, right? But they didn't fire both of them. Field, who identifies herself as a senior software engineer, she says she's been subjected to retaliation and threats for speaking out about the other employee's wrongful termination.
But it wasn't wrongful. The other employee walked out of their job and was fired as a result of that. That tends to happen when you walk out.
These people have a right to a job.
Well,
it is Netflix requirement. It is their duty to provide you with a nice, safe, comfortable workplace to work in
and walk out of.
And a paycheck.
And so their attorney, Lori Burgess, said in a statement, quote, "This charge is not just about Bea and Tara. It's not about Dave. It's about trying to change the culture and having an impact for others. The charge is all about collective action. It's about supporting your coworkers and speaking up for things you care about." Netflix, however, denies retaliating against any employees for speaking out. Their spokesperson said in a statement to USA Today, quote, "We recognize the hurt and pain caused to our trans colleagues over the last few weeks, but we want to make clear that Netflix has not taken any action against employees for either speaking up or walking out," they said. Now, I don't know if they explained why they did fire her, if not for walking out.
Do you recall 2 weeks ago, there was a Netflix employee, I don't know the name of, who was fired for leaking sensitive material?
I wonder if this was the Pagels Minor.
Specifically, when I say sensitive, I mean numbers and data and money. I don't know what all that involves, and I don't know the person's name. And now that would be, where is this person at?
Good question.
Is this one of them?
It doesn't sound like they have a very good case, because Netflix did not, in fact, fire everyone who walked out.
Correct.
They didn't fire all of the trans or non-binary people. They only fired one particular person. I wouldn't want to be the attorney trying to argue that this was retaliation when only one person was allegedly retaliated against, and the other one has their job still, despite walking out.
Fired, according to another story here at the Silicon Valley Business Journal, Ms. Pagels Minor was indeed fired for allegedly leaking.
There you go.
Some details. Now, there's a paywall blocking me from reading that story, but I did get at least that much from the header.
So this is the employee that was filed for leaking sensitive information.
Commercially sensitive materials.
That's according to Netflix. Yeah. Now, according to Burgess, their attorney, the NLRB will conduct an investigation into the charges. If they find merit to the allegations, they will issue a complaint against Netflix. If Netflix, the NLRB, and the two employees can't reach a settlement, then the NLRB will pursue a case against Netflix, which could result in Pagels Minor getting their job back along with back pay. So it sounds like they're union employees here in this case.
These people, all companies out there, whether you're a tree service with 3 employees or big Netflix or Google or whatnot, you got to stop hiring these people. These woke ass activists,
that's exactly
straight out of
issue.
college. You get them in there, and they get in there and they immediately start rocking the boat. I don't like the way you do business. We need to do it this way because this is what I learned. And they start rocking and then you can't get rid of them.
But if they do that, Conan, then I can't find a job. Because then they're discriminating because they see a trans person or whatever. They just assume that you're a woke leftist.
No, well, judging the book by the cover is going to happen. But no, you hire people based on... You
gotta break some eggs to make that omelet, man.
You hire based on merit. You get in there and you look at where you've worked before. You call your last employer. You have a work history.
Netflix
I can figure out whether you're a good person or not, but some of these kids straight out of college... Don't hire him. Stop hiring him.
Netflix says she admitted to sharing confidential information externally from their Netflix email on several occasions.
That sounds like that's why she was fired. What are your thoughts? 603-283-6160. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. If you want to weigh in, 603-283-6160 is the call-in line. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Arya.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And I want to tell you about Bitcoin.com. It's the best place to go to learn about cryptocurrency. If you're new to the subject, just click Getting Started at the top of the page. There's some short videos there that will teach you the basics of this important world-changing information, because Bitcoin, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's not going anywhere, and it's just becoming more and more mainstream every single day. This boat hasn't set sail, or this ship hasn't set sail yet. There's still plenty of time to learn about cryptocurrency, but don't get into it before you learn about it. That's at Bitcoin.com. But if you already know about it, you can stay up to date on all the news and headlines that are relevant to you in cryptocurrency at news.bitcoin.com, all on a sleek, easy-to-use website. That and more at Bitcoin.com.
Don't buy Squid Coin.
Don't buy Squid Coin. No,
if you even can. I think they're completely dark at the moment. That was a big scam right there.
You got to be careful about scam coins because they are everywhere. And one of the ones I saw in the news today, they did everything, including having an actual person who, revealed their personal identification, proving that they were who they were.
Right.
It still turned out to be a scam coin, with something like $200,000 in Binance Coin ultimately scammed out of people. So,
well, if they actually have a real person, can they?
I don't know.
Is that person liable? Can they go after him?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the future. But I want to get into Chris Cantwell because why is this civil suit expected to take so long? Because you said it's expected to take a month.
A month.
Is that because it's a great show and this is what the people want?
It's got to be a good show.
Well, it's not the people.
To make an example out of them?
So it's a specific group of individuals who are bringing suit against another group of individuals, including Christopher Cantwell, including Richard Spencer, who's another one of these alt-right Nazi types, white supremacists, white nationalists, and the people.
Didn't someone punch him?
I have no idea. Probably. But anyway, these are people who were ostensibly involved to some extent in the Charlottesville protest, the Unite the Right march thing, where they had the tiki torches back in 2017 and they were chanting offensive chants and things like that. There was a fight that started. Now, if you believe Chris Cantwell, he didn't start it. That the Antifa that was there started the fight, and Chris simply defended himself. Ultimately, he ended up taking a plea deal, pleading guilty to some sort of an assault charge, a misdemeanor reduced from, I think it was like felony charges, and was told he could not come back to Virginia for 5 years, and then had to leave. This was after spending several months behind bars, pretrial confinement in Virginia. So he already had a bunch of money that he'd been paying to defense attorneys, and then he got hit with this civil lawsuit, which has completely bankrupted him at this point. He no longer has an attorney, so he's representing himself. He believes, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it's my understanding that he believes that this suit is completely... that it doesn't have any real basis, that it only exists to waste the defendant's time and force them into depositions where they have to reveal information about their various different, chats that they might have had and, whatever plans that they might have had. And also, ultimately, the allegation is that they were conspiring to commit an act of violence, a racial violence together. And Chris's argument is that no, there was no conspiracy. We didn't even know each other, basically, prior to this meeting. So the plaintiffs have to prove a conspiracy, and the defendants have to defend against it. But there's multiple plaintiffs, and there's multiple defendants, so each defendant gets to cross-examine every witness. So it's not like you've got just one attorney. You've got a room full of, I don't remember how many defendants there are, but each defendant has their own different attorney. So all these attorneys get to ask cross-examination questions, and I don't know how many attorneys the plaintiffs have. So
it sounds like a mess.
Yeah. Update here from thedailybeast.com. The Crying Nazi, a white supremacist, dubbed that, is causing chaos at the Unite the Right trial, hijacking the proceedings to express his personal conspiracies about Antifa. Midway through neo-Nazi Christopher Cantwell's contentious appearance in court on Monday, a lawyer interrupted with an objection. Attorney Alex Conlon said to the judge, "I understand he's pro se, but this is not a podcast." unquote. Cantwell, who does indeed host a podcast, or at least did, I don't think he's hosting it now.
It would
He's
be
in
kind of
prison.
difficult.
Yeah, for listeners that don't know, he went to federal prison for a 41-month sentence for basically having a fight on the internet with another Nazi. That's a whole other story, and it's definitely political persecution, whether you like him or not.
41 months.
Yeah, he shouldn't have gone. He shouldn't have gone to prison for basically having an argument on Telegram.
I mean, it's the equivalent of what children say to each other on Xbox every single day.
Yeah, probably not even that bad.
Yeah, and Christopher Cantwell ended up going to prison and is
Correct.
going to spend the next 3 years or so in prison.
He's probably only got about another year or so before he might get into like a halfway house or something, because he was in jail for a year prior to the trial. So
Okay.
he's got that.
That counts as
pretrial-
time
yeah,
served?
Yeah. Anyway, the Cantwell is among more than a dozen far-right figures being sued this month for their alleged roles in orchestrating violence at Unite the Right, the deadly 2017 white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. Some of those defendants, including Cantwell, are representing themselves after being dropped by their attorneys. In Cantwell's case, he just couldn't pay them. That means Cantwell, who earned the nickname Crying Nazi after a video emerged of him blubbering ahead of his arrest, and co-defendant Richard Spencer have been able to speak at length during the trial, leading to chaotic outbursts. Already, Spencer has confused two famous black authors, while Cantwell has relitigated old conspiracy theories and used the N-word. Again, in front of a jury.
Brilliant, Cantwell.
Unite the Right, advertised as something like Woodstock 99 for fascists, saw a coalition of white supremacists descend on Charlottesville on August 11th and 12th of 2017. The event was marked by violence from its
that's
outset.
not fair. It's not fair to call them white supremacists, and Chris Cantwell he concedes this point. He's not a white supremacist. He believes that the Jews are supreme.
That's true.
He's a Jewish
You're
supremacist.
right. He is more of a white nationalist, I guess you could say. That's probably a better,
And
more
this makes him
accurate
feel
term.
very insecure and very angry.
Yes.
Which is why he's a white nationalist.
I think he would also admit that Asians are superior to whites as well, because all he goes by is, IQ tests.
Ah, that's right, yeah.
The event was marked by violence from the outset, with participants attacking counter-demonstrators. Now, again, the participants say that it was the opposite was true. During a torchlit march the first night, the rally culminated in murder after neo-Nazi James Fields Jr. drove his car into a crowd of counter-demonstrators the next day, killing one and wounding dozens more. And he's in prison for life for that, by the way. He is one of the defendants in this case also. The far right began circulating conspiracy theories about the attack moments after it occurred, first claiming the driver was a leftist, then blaming victims for the hit and run. Fields was convicted of murder and is currently serving 30 life sentences.
Good Lord.
Plaintiffs in the Charlottesville lawsuit, which is being brought by a group called Integrity First for America, argue that rally organizers bear responsibility for the attacks. So they're saying, because you were involved in organizing this thing that went bad, you are a conspirator and you should be held civilly liable, meaning you have to pay us.
Was it even that organized? I thought it was just a bunch of dudes with tiki torches who gathered in a place and then I don't think they had an agenda. There wasn't a list of speakers and a schedule for them.
Somebody did call to get a permit, apparently, because they did have a permit. They had asked permission from the Charlottesville police. But as my understanding is, Cantwell's argument is he didn't even know most of these people, and so he certainly wasn't involved in a conspiracy to commit violence.
I'll tell you what, Vice really made it look organized. That was a very crisp documentary they did there.
Well, somebody brought those tiki torches. I mean, somebody said bring tiki torches, so there obviously was some sort of organizing going on. But the question is, did they conspire to commit violence? Not whether or not they conspired to have an event. Obviously, they had an event, and it was promoted. On Monday, Cantwell cross-examined Devin Willis, a plaintiff in the case who was assaulted during the torchlit march. During cross-examination, Cantwell said he found it conspicuous that Willis described himself as attending peaceful protests against the far right. The remark appeared to be part of Cantwell's strategy of blaming the rally's violence on the left. Throughout the trial, which began last week, he has peppered plaintiffs with conspiracy theories, attempting to prove that they are anti-fascist activists and therefore, via an unclear argument, writes the author here, responsible for Unite the Right's violence. How do you feel about fascism? Cantwell asked plaintiff Natalie Romero last week. When Romero replied she opposes fascism because it, quote, hates her existence, unquote, as a queer Latina woman, Cantwell attempted to paint her as an anti-fascist activist. But Cantwell's conspiracy theory about Willis appeared to go too far for the court, with plaintiff's attorney Alex Conlon objecting Cantwell's questioning was better suited for his podcast
then a trial. It wasn't the first time his podcasting past has come up in court. Last week, while he was delivering his opening remarks, he was asked to speak in a more normal voice so the jury could understand him. Cantwell likened his delivery to a podcast performance. And I overheard this part of his opening statement where he actually apologized. He was talking too fast, as he's wont to do as a New Yorker, and so he slowed it down for the benefit of the jury and the lady taking notes.
I have so many questions.
He's a character.
He is a character.
It's Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to MyMagicMud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. MyMagicMud.com, FTL20.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I am Ira Spitzer. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's independent vaccine advisors have unanimously endorsed the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. That sets the stage for the vaccination of elementary school children in the United States. FSN's U.S. correspondent Rachel Silverman reports.
The panel voted 14-0 in favor of the shots, which the Food and Drug Administration authorized for children last week. The advisory committee said while the vaccines carry some risk for children, their benefits are greater. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky is expected to quickly endorse the administration of the shots, then health providers will be able to start administering them. Roughly 28 million children in the U.S. between the ages of 5 and 11 will be eligible for the vaccine.
U.S. President Joe Biden has criticized China's decision not to attend the COP26 climate summit, calling it a big mistake. Chinese leader Xi Jinping provided a written statement, but chose not to take part in the meeting of world leaders in Scotland. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
The president said that for China, the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gas, not showing up was a problem. And he slammed President Xi's decision to stay at home rather than travel to COP26.
I think it's been a big mistake, quite frankly, for China, with respect to China not showing up. The rest of the world is going to look to China and say, what value added are they providing? And they've lost an ability to influence people around the world and all the people here at COP.
President Biden was also asked if he was concerned about armed conflict with China, to which he said he was not. That's despite rising tensions with Beijing, increased aggression in the South China Sea, and questions about exactly if and how the US would defend Taiwan if China invaded the island.
Ethiopia has declared a nationwide state of emergency following threats from rebel forces that they are planning to enter the capital city, Addis Ababa. There has been intensive fighting in parts of the country's north, with the rebels, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, taking control of some major cities. FSN's Coletta Wanjohi reports from Addis Ababa.
The state of emergency has been declared by the Council of Ministers. It is expected to be approved by Parliament within 48 hours, and rules of the period are yet to be spelled out. The government says the emergency declaration is intended to protect citizens from being attacked by the Tigray People's Liberation Front, a rebel group that the federal government has been fighting in Ethiopia's north for a year now. The rebels have captured at least 2 major cities in Amhara, a region that borders Tigray where the fighting began. Areas captured are close to 400 kilometers to the capital city, Addis Ababa, and the TPLF have threatened to enter the city.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at how the world should judge COP26, the climate summit which opened on Monday in Glasgow and continues to hear a host of worthy speeches from world leaders promising change. But will they deliver? And what are the mechanisms for this conference once the opening addresses are over and the leaders themselves have left Glasgow? Sarah Mukherjee is the CEO of the Institute of Environmental Management. It's a body for professionals studying sustainability.
I've been to quite a few of these events in various guises, and this first day is always the kind of set piece. So you've got, world leaders they know they have an incredibly high-profile audience in the room. Everybody sitting there is a world leader or a thought leader. But it's really at the end of this Leaders' Summit in the next couple of days where the real work is going to be done, where the international delegates will start doing the horse trading and start trying to really knit together a deal, which we all hope will show some real action. That's certainly what our members are telling us. They want to see something tangible come out of these talks.
The British government hosting the event wants a global commitment to ensure net zero carbon emissions by the year 2050. But as the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi indicated in his speech on Monday, that may be a tough climb. India, he says, won't achieve that goal until 20 years later. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. Independent vaccine advisors at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention unanimously endorsed the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. Joe Biden criticizes China's decision not to attend the COP26 climate summit. And Ethiopia declares a nationwide state of emergency following threats from rebel forces to enter the nation's capital. That is the latest feature story news.
In a deal policymakers have hailed as a decisive step towards combating the rapidly escalating national debt, the United States settled 0.02 millionth of a percent of its debt to China this week with a single autographed photograph of John Hamm. The sale of the glossy signed headshot of the acclaimed actor, which China reportedly accepted for a financial easement of approximately $150 out of America's estimated $1.3 trillion in obligations, concludes a 6-month negotiation between the two parties.
The decision was obviously not an easy one, but without question, this was the right choice for our nation's future.
And in this week's science news, a distant planet is terrified that it might be able to someday support human life. In other news, a live cow is lowered onto the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. The majority of an office's supplies are used to apply for different jobs, and a lapsed cult member only attends sanctum on major bloodletting holidays.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. As always, you're invited to join us. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria, Conan, and Ian talking about Christopher Cantwell, who used to be a host here on Free Talk Live.
Yep, until he became a Nazi.
Yes,
a racist. Actually, we didn't fire him for becoming a Nazi. He hadn't become a Nazi yet. He just sort of became a racist. And once we learned that about him and he was unapologetic for it, I had to fire him.
Yeah, and I certainly don't blame you for that.
Yeah.
He then went on to do the Radical Agenda, and he tried to rebrand himself and do a different show. I don't even remember now what the name of it was.
His original podcast was called Some Garbage Podcast, which he then rebranded into Radical Agenda. And then later he did Outlaw Conservative.
That was it, yes. Where he wanted to be. The gist of it, as I understood it, was he was going to swear less, basically.
Yeah, he wanted a more family-friendly version of the show.
So I was actually on Radical Agenda, I think, twice, and I mean, he was cordial and a good host, and it was a fun time.
He's entertaining and smart. It's just so sad to see somebody who is intelligent, going to that direction of white nationalism.
It is, and ultimately he ended up getting into an online argument with some other Nazis and ended up going to trial here in New Hampshire and getting sentenced to, I think you said, 41 months in
Something
federal
like that.
prison.
Yeah.
And,
for having a Telegram fight with another Nazi.
And I got criticized at the time for saying free Cantwell. He is a political prisoner and he should be free. People were calling me a Nazi sympathizer, not realizing that you cannot have an opinion on this particular issue without sympathizing with the Nazi. You're either sympathizing with the Nazi who was Chris's alleged victim, or you're sympathizing with Christopher Cantwell, who is a Nazi.
It's the same thing with the January 6th incident. If you come to defend those people who are basically walking through the facility there, you're gonna get thrown right into the alt-right wagon. There's no if buts or it's just that.
Yeah.
You are the bad guy.
Remember when the ACLU defended the Nazis for having like a march in Skokie, Illinois decades ago? Like, this was a big deal back then. I mean, because, and they took heat because, well, they're the ACLU. They're a leftist organization. How could you defend the Nazis? Well, because they're for freedom of speech. And because principle matters more than whatever this person's beliefs are. Somebody who's got offensive beliefs should be free to express them.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have the First Amendment so you can chat about the weather or say something non-controversial. We have it so that you have the right to say something that is considered controversial.
Yeah, and what was so back to Cantwell on trial. There's this huge civil trial going on now, and according to the Daily Beast article, it's expected to last at least another 2.5 weeks, and it's been going for a week already, from what I understand.
Based on what I'm hearing, I would suggest it's going to go on for months. You said dozens of defendants?
There are a dozen or so defendants, and I don't know how many witnesses there are. So each witness is going to take a long time to get through because every defendant gets their crack at asking questions because they're not represented by the same attorneys. And I called in on the opening statements last week and listened in because I got the word that Cantwell was doing his statement. I don't care about the rest of the trial, but he's always entertaining. So
sure.
And he'd actually called us to say, "Hey, you ought to listen in because it's going to be pretty interesting."
And I mean, despite all his flaws, he is our friend.
Yeah, I still love the guy. I mean, I hope that he comes around and, finds peace inside himself because ultimately, my critique of him has always been that it's right there in his name. He can't be well. He hates himself, and he's, and when you hate yourself, that's going to manifest in some really ugly, outward-going aspects.
And so what was his argument, his opening argument?
It was long and rambling, but the reason I brought it up was because there were over 300 people. Because it was one of those conference call things, like an AT&T conference call, where you just dial the number, you put in a code, and boom, you're in the conference. And what was interesting to me was like maybe the judge said something at the beginning of the day, but there wasn't like some sort of disclaimer on there saying if you are recording this, you will be prosecuted. Because normally, like in a federal hearing, they will say that, like, you are not allowed to record this hearing. It's a crime. We're going to come after you. But there was nothing like that. Now, I didn't record it, but I bet you that out of those 300 people listening to that trial, I bet you somebody was running an audio recorder on those statements. So,
I would imagine so.
So it wouldn't surprise me if audio from Cantwell turns up, because somebody already posted a transcript of it on, I think it was Liberty Girl, on our chat server over at chat.freetalklive.com. So if you've got a transcript, you had to have a recording in order to go and make the transcript.
And now, what is the case against these guys that they were somehow connected? It was a conspiracy.
That there was a conspiracy to commit violence.
And because that girl got hit by the hit and runner.
Well, plus there was a large fight between the Antifa activists and the far right people.
I don't understand how this could possibly be the fault of the white nationalists, the Unite the Right people. Antifa went to them. They didn't go to Antifa.
That's true. They went to a public park.
They had their permits. They had everything. And Antifa went there. There's no other way of looking at it than Antifa went there to oppose them and then proceeded to oppose them.
And they must have known that there were high chances that some sort of a violent encounter would break out.
Which happens when you're vehemently against Nazis and you're in the presence of a bunch of Nazis.
When you go to the school to punch a Nazi and you meet a Nazi, that's typically where it goes.
But the difference here is that the Nazis, look, they're not popular people. Chris Cantwell, for whatever reason, thought this was going to be some big moneymaker for him to become a right-wing neo-Nazi activist, and it ended up bankrupting him. And what's going on here is the people who are prosecuting, they've got big money backers, and the people who are on the defense, they don't. So the people who are doing the suing, whether or not they started the fight, I don't know. I wasn't there. I know what Chris says. I know what, the statements are, but who knows? Maybe one person started it on one side and another person started it on another side. There were hundreds of people at this thing. So how do you know? How can you tell who started a fight when there's hundreds of people around?
I don't know, but I don't see how Antifa could have really gone there in good faith.
Yeah, you're saying it was an antagonistic move in that case. They weren't just there to have a little silent protest in front of the statue, because it was all about like one of those Civil War statues, I guess, was in that park. And so the Antifa people were allegedly there before the right-wing guys got there, and they had like surrounded the statue. And so they were ready for something.
Well,
I do know the Antifa people have been saying for years that it's okay to punch Nazis.
That's true. That is the school that they go to. They have attended that school. Now, how many years ago was this?
This was 2017.
2017.
So 4 years ago. It was August, I think, of 2017.
We've had years since this took place to have witnessed how Antifa does how they do their activism. They flip things over. They set things on fire. They burn things down. So I don't know that they were if they were. I don't know how.
Well, the difficult thing
violent
is that
they were in 2017, but we've had many years to see how they react to these types of events. But
Antifa isn't like an actual organization that behaves as a community.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bunch of individuals who are anti-fascism. I mean, in the sense, I'm Antifa because I oppose fascism.
But Aria, or you should know at least, when it comes to left-wingers and groups, they do have organizations.
Yes.
And they are very specific to limit or to capitalize on the individual movement that they say Antifa is, but it's really not. They're getting money from bigwigs.
Typically with a leftist organization,
they're getting Soros money.
There's a lot of like top-down control. They're very centrally commanded and controlled, and like the little guys don't have the ability to speak to the press, that kind of thing. So
that's true.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you that every single person there was members of whatever group might have been involved, but I bet you that if you went and asked someone to interview, they'd say, "Oh, you need to talk to my spokesperson over there."
Good
that
point.
happens.
What are your thoughts? Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong here? 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering FreePrivateCities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at FreePrivateCities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. FreePrivateCities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, where you're invited to join 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And you know, the thing that upset me most about the memes going around of Mark Zuckerberg right now and his barbecue sauce bottle that he had on the shelf as he did his little video.
As a book stand.
Look.
Is that what it was for?
It was a bookend. He was using it to hold the books up.
You're going to find weirder stuff holding up books in my house.
Yes. Okay. It was his what was it? The Meta introduction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
changing Facebook and all the
where
metaverse
they changed
crap.
Their name to Meta.
He's walking around his house and people are finding all these discrepancies. Like something was wrong with his tube or something. Like it wasn't plugged in.
His tube?
What is a tube?
His freaking his monitor, his computer monitor. And some people are like, well,
the tube wasn't plugged in.
There was no wires or anything coming out of it. I'm thinking it was just wireless. But anyways, the whole thing was it was all sketchy. The whole thing was very bad, poor acting, and there was one incident where he's there, and you can tell his wife probably decorated the whole place. It's got books that obviously no one's going to read because they just look decorative. And there's a
books always look decorative when they're on a bookshelf,
but it's a very white, clean decoration. And there's a bottle of barbecue hot sauce up on one of the top book stands holding the books up.
Now, how do you know they're just not trolling? You know, they're just not screwing around or whatever. Like, let's put a barbecue sauce up there. It's got to be,
but the joke is, the meme is that obviously Zuckerberg is not human. He's either Data from Star Trek,
or he looks a lot like him,
or he's a reptile. And of course, what do? You try to fit in with the human species. And so obviously in the booklet that he was reading didn't describe what is not supposed to go on a bookshelf.
See, I don't care that he had a bottle of barbecue sauce there. The part that concerns me is that he had this cheap 99-cent bottle of barbecue sauce from like Walmart or something instead of something that was actually decent.
That's good stuff.
What was it? What brand was it?
It's the one that Aldi's has. It's a known
Baby Ray's.
Huh. Okay.
It's good stuff.
No, it's not.
It's all right. Now it's really, really sweet. I mean, you've really got to thin it out. But if you're going to do something like some, barbecue sandwiches or something, it's all right. But hey,
the Memphis in me is getting so angry right now, Conan.
In his defense, I also have barbecue sauce, the good stuff, the stuff that I made just recently, in my computer room on a bookshelf.
See,
as well as some salt and not other condiments, but some salt and stuff, because that's where I hang out. That's where I eat and stuff.
So, in surprising news, Facebook is planning to shut down its facial recognition program. Facebook on Tuesday announced that it will be putting an end to the facial recognition system amid growing concern from users and regulators. The social network, whose parent company is now named Meta, because they're rebranding their entire thing to focus on this metaverse or whatever, said that it will delete more than 1 billion people's individual facial recognition templates as a result of this change.
Now, how long have they been working on this project? Because I'm not even aware of this.
Which project? The facial recognition thing?
Correct.
It's been a decade at least.
Like if someone were to post a picture of me, it would automatically tag me.
I thought
or my sister. It alternates between which one of us it chooses to tag.
Yeah, but I thought everyone was doing this. Not just
facial recognition, you mean?
Yeah, every app you download, it's in the EULA. It's like, we're taking control of your phone and we're taking your pictures and we're doing this and that.
I don't allow apps to have camera access unless I need to actually take a picture with that app.
Any of these apps that take your picture and put bunny ears on your head or something, or even clean up discrepancies and whatnot. That's
like Snap. Well, yeah, if you're giving an app permission to take a picture of you, the app is going to take a picture of you and store that picture in a database somewhere. That's just sort of a given.
We're supposed to believe that Facebook, after a decade roughly of using this technology to tag people's photos and likely assist law enforcement with investigations, is going to just get rid of this technology?
That's what they're saying. They're saying they're not just going to stop doing it, but they're going to delete all of the individual facial recognition templates.
And what is the backing of this? What do
you mean?
It's signaling. They're trying to make it look like, we're Facebook, we care now. We are so concerned about your privacy. They don't care about your privacy. They don't care about this. This is just a signal. Here's what I want to know is, what would it take for somebody to scrape the Facebook site? And for those that don't know, that means you just go through whatever's public on Facebook. You have a little crawler program, go through every single page. I know it's a lot, right? But you could do it. You go through every single page on Facebook. Google does these things, right?
Google indexed the entire internet.
Yeah. Search engines have been crawling websites forever. You download every single photograph that's publicly available. You associate, you get a copy of Facebook, whatever it is that's public. Or you can get a copy of, create an account and then get whatever the person who has an account can get, right? Which would be even more. Yeah. So you do all that. Now, it's a violation of their terms of service, but FBI doesn't care about that. And then what's to stop the FBI or some other company, being hired by the federal government or some other government to say, all right, well, Facebook's not running their facial recognition program anymore. Let's go ahead and put the data into our program. Beep. Upload.
Well, nothing is stopping that, but that would at least make it the end user's responsibility not to put pictures of themselves online.
Well, that's always been the end user's responsibility. My point is, this means nothing. For Facebook to stop doing this, there's already probably somebody else who's doing it with the very same data. They didn't get it from Facebook corporate. Facebook corporate didn't enter into an agreement to say, okay, we're going to shut this down, but secretly behind the scenes, we're going to send over our database to this other company. They didn't have to. The database is there for anyone to scrape and to take and to utilize. So there's no reason why that your photos on Facebook are not going to continue to be data mined for facial recognition information. It just won't be Facebook doing it. If you believe what they're saying, it'll be somebody else.
I tend to believe they're probably being truthful here because I don't see how they could get away with continuing to do it after saying that they're going to stop it.
Yeah, well, they could get away with it until somebody inside Facebook leaks it out that they're continuing. That would be the way it would come out.
Yeah, so they're going to delete, evidently more than 600 million people have opted into this. I don't recall ever opting into it. It just sort of started happening.
Yeah.
So
I think when they say opt in, they mean we changed our terms of service, and if you don't like our changing of the terms of service, you can delete your account.
Mm-hmm. So Facebook will no longer automatically recognize people's faces in photos or videos. The change, however, will also impact the automatic alternative text technology that the company uses to describe images for people who are blind or visually impaired. And that's the downside of this, but just not recognizing people's faces shouldn't prevent Facebook from being able to use an AI to describe what a picture looks like, right? Like this is a picture of a desk or whatever. Yeah. I don't either.
I have uploaded pictures, and Facebook will come at me and give me suggestions like, is this person?
That's what they're doing. That's the facial recognition technology.
And usually they're pretty spot on. There's only been a couple of instances where, and by the way, there's also an auto face lookup where if you just upload a picture, Facebook will just apply it to a person.
What do you mean?
It automatically, I'll upload a picture of anybody, and Facebook will recognize that face, and stamp a name on it.
So supposedly that feature is going to go away if you believe what they're saying. That's no longer going to be something that you can do.
Well, they say that it's part of a company-wide move away from this kind of broad identification, which makes sense. You wouldn't want the company that controls the metaverse to be privacy unfriendly, but Facebook is private.
They better not control
privacy
it. I'm
unfriendly.
putting my foot down.
And so is
Metaverse.
Meta. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I am Ira Spitzer. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's independent vaccine advisors have unanimously endorsed the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. That sets the stage for the vaccination of elementary school children in the United States. FSN's U.S. correspondent Rachel Silverman reports.
The panel voted 14-0 in favor of the shots, which the Food and Drug Administration authorized for children last week. The advisory committee said while the vaccines carry some risk for children, their benefits are greater. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky is expected to quickly endorse the administration of the shots, then health providers will be able to start administering them. Roughly 28 million children in the U.S. between the ages of 5 and 11 will be eligible for the vaccine.
U.S. President Joe Biden has criticized China's decision not to attend the COP26 climate summit, calling it a big mistake. Chinese leader Xi Jinping provided a written statement, but chose not to take part in the meeting of world leaders in Scotland. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
The president said that for China, the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gas, not showing up was a problem. And he slammed President Xi's decision to stay at home rather than travel to COP26.
I think it's been a big mistake, quite frankly, for China, with respect to China not showing up. The rest of the world is going to look to China and say, what value added are they providing? And they've lost an ability to influence people around the world and all the people here at COP.
President Biden was also asked if he was concerned about armed conflict with China, to which he said he was not. That's despite rising tensions with Beijing, increased aggression in the South China Sea, and questions about exactly if and how the US would defend Taiwan if China invaded the island.
Ethiopia has declared a nationwide state of emergency following threats from rebel forces that they are planning to enter the capital city, Addis Ababa. There has been intensive fighting in parts of the country's north, with the rebels, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, taking control of some major cities. FSN's Coletta Wanjohi reports from Addis Ababa.
The state of emergency has been declared by the Council of Ministers. It is expected to be approved by Parliament within 48 hours, and rules of the period are yet to be spelt out. The government says the emergency declaration is intended to protect citizens from being attacked by the Tigray People's Liberation Front, a rebel group that the federal government has been fighting in Ethiopia's north for a year now. The rebels have captured at least 2 major cities in Amhara, a region that borders Tigray where the fighting began. Areas captured are close to 400 kilometers to the capital city, Addis Ababa, and the TPLF have threatened to enter the city.
From bureaus worldwide, this is
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. Here on Free Talk Live, though, we have a big problem with censorship. We're always being given content strikes or some sort of community guidelines violation on these big tech platforms, and that's why you should follow us on Odyssey. We initially, promoted Twitch as our video streaming service, and then, of course, we got suspended there briefly for like 3 days or something. Then we looked into DLive, and it seemed promising for a bit, but none of them have been as free and censorship-proof as you can find at Odyssey. You can find our channel there at video.freetalklive.com. It is the front end, basically a website front end for the LBRY platform. LBRY is a decentralized media sharing protocol, and Odyssey is a way for people to see what's on LBRY and allow people to live stream as well, without having to install the LBRY software. So check us out at video.freetalklive.com. More than 1 million people now have channels there are more than 1 million channels over at Odyssey. You can find our channel again, video.freetalklive.com, because even though we ourselves have been hit with censorship fairly regularly, I'm actually surprised that we haven't been hit in the last month or two. I mean, got a pretty good long streak going here of not being suspended anywhere. No, that's not true. Nemo or someone like that banned us, just outright kicked us off their platform.
Oh, I thought it was a deadline. Usually they give you like a deadline when they let you back. I don't think we're permanently off.
Okay. And without any explanation whatsoever.
I'll check, though.
I mean, for all 0 viewers who are watching us there must be very upset.
Yeah. I am most surprised by YouTube right now, the fact that we haven't gotten any...
It's been a while since YouTube
flack for a while.
Suspended us, yeah. So video.freetalklive.com. But speaking of censorship, all of that censorship, it just isn't enough to satisfy the ravenous beast that is the federal government. And Ian, you have a story about that. Evidently, Facebook, YouTube, all of these other big tech platforms, they've just been repeatedly summoned before Congress and asked you and told you have to censor more information.
Earlier this year, Glenn Greenwald, and he recently tweeted about this, which is why I have it now, but he wrote this story several months ago, but he sat and watched a 5+ hour hearing, and man, I don't wish this kind of thing on anybody. I mean, just to watch politicians badgering people for 5 hours, it's a brutal thing to go through. But, thankfully he sat there and watched it so he could write this story and tell us what exactly transpired. And as he notes here on his Substack, which is where he's publishing now, for those that don't know, Glenn Greenwald is the guy that broke the Edward Snowden story in 2013. And now he is reporting on his own. He doesn't have, some corporate company telling him what to do anymore like he used to.
Nice.
And so it's greenwald.substack.com. You can actually subscribe to him there, and you can donate to him there. He says, as I noted when I reported last month on the scheduling of this hearing, this was the 3rd time in less than 5 months that the Congress has summoned the CEOs of social media companies to appear before them with the explicit intent to pressure and coerce them to censor more content from their platforms.
I mean, they're already censoring a fair amount of content.
Oh, yeah. But it's not enough, according to the government. So the bulk of this hearing consisted of one Democratic member after another complaining that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, the Google Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai, and Twitter's CEO Jack Dorsey have failed in their duties to censor political voices and ideological content that these elected officials regard as adversarial or harmful, accompanied by threats that legislative punishment, which could include possible revocation of Section 230. Now, what is that? Do you know what Section 230 is?
It's the liability section that prevents groups like Facebook from being sued because of their users going off the rails and maybe causing a problem. So, for prime example, the Cantwell incident that was probably widely distributed on Facebook. But
you mean the Unite the Right rally?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But so you're the group of suers who are going after the alt-righters can't go after they can't go after Facebook because Facebook allowed all that to happen.
But if they could,
they would.
So yeah, that's Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. So they're threatening to revoke that if these CEOs don't start, shaping up.
Do they have the power to revoke that?
If there's enough of them that'll vote for it, and technically it's not quite a 50-50 or close to 50-50 in Congress, so they could. And
they just make it sound like it's so easy. We'll revoke this if you don't do what we want you to.
Well, whether it be easy or not, I don't know, because obviously these companies give a lot of campaign contributions, so they probably wouldn't be able to get all of the Democrats to vote in favor of repealing Section 230. So it may not be that easy. But that's their threat that they're issuing. As they've done in prior hearings, both Zuckerberg and Pichai spoke like the superscripted programmed automatons that they are, eager to please their congressional overseers, though they did periodically issue what should have been unnecessary warnings that excessive content moderation can cripple free political discourse. Dorsey, by contrast, seemed at the end of his line of patience and tolerance for vapid moronic censorship demands, and sitting in a kitchen in front of a pile of plates and glasses, he refreshingly barely bothered to hide that indifference. At one point, he flatly stated in response to demands that Twitter do more to remove so-called disinformation, quote, "I don't think we should be the arbiters of truth, and I don't think the government should be either."
Good.
Unfortunately, Twitter is constantly removing people's accounts and so-called, labeling misinformation, all that. So by no means is Twitter like some sort of anti-government organization. But
yeah, but does Dorsey even know all that's going on? He seems so off in the shadows, off in his own little world. It's like, does he even know what his woke-ass employees are doing?
The moderators?
I don't think he, because he gets asked this all the time, and he seems clueless.
Well, he's also an advocate of Bitcoin.
Yeah, he is.
He's coming out. He's coming out with the crypto these days.
Well, he is a CEO, and it's a corporation, so a lot of times, big companies don't know the right hand, don't know what the left hand's doing, right? Zuckerberg, in particular, has minimal capacity to communicate the way human beings naturally do. The Facebook CEO was obviously instructed by a team of public speaking consultants that it is customary to address members of the committee as congressman or congresswoman. He thus began literally every answer he gave, even in rapid back-and-forth questions, with that word. He just refused to move his mouth without doing that for 5 hours.
That almost sounds entertaining to watch. Almost. Until he said, for 5 hours.
He says,
there's probably a super clips out there, super cuts, where it's just
congressman, congresswoman.
Yeah.
Though in fairness, the questioning of Zuckerberg was often absurd and unreasonable. His brain permits no discretion to deviate from his script, no matter how appropriate. For every question directed to him, he paused for several seconds, had his internal algorithm search for the relevant place in the metaphorical cassette inserted in a hidden box in his back, uttered the word congressman or congresswoman, stopped for several more seconds to search for the next applicable spot in the spine cassette, and then proceeded to unblinkingly recite the words slowly transmitted into his neurons.
I actually remember this video of this incident, and he's just, you could see the little Windows icon, the
spinning.
The spinning.
Every
time he went to answer a question. He is an alien, man.
I just love the description. It's so well written.
It is a vivid, extremely well written description.
One could practically see the gears in his head painfully churning as the cassette rewound or fast forwarded. This tortuous ritual likely consumed roughly 30% of the hearing time. I've never seen members of Congress from across the ideological spectrum so united as they were by visceral contempt for Zuckerberg's non-human comportment. But it's vital not to lose sight of how truly despotic hearings like this are. It's easy to overlook because we've become so accustomed to political goons, I'm putting that word in, he uses the term leaders, successfully demanding that social media companies censor the internet in accordance with their whims. Recall that Parler, that was the most downloaded app in the country, was removed in January from Apple and Google Play stores and then denied internet service by Amazon after two very prominent Democratic House members publicly demanded that happen. At the last pro-censorship hearing convened by Congress, Senator Ed Markey from Massachusetts...
Congress has a pro-censorship meeting?
Well, they're not calling it that, but that's what they are. A congressman declared that the Democrats' grievance is not that these companies are censoring too much, but rather not enough.
Horrible.
603
Get rid of these people.
283-6160 if you want to weigh in. They absolutely need to be gotten rid of. The American government is openly wanting censorship. It's Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and if you haven't checked out the new AMPS program, you might want to check it out as Ron Dinyan has done. You can find it at amps.freetalklive.com or just amp.freetalklive.com. They'll both take you there. But AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Because if you like the show, if you want to help keep it going, if you want to help it reach larger audiences, the AMPS program is the best way to do that. Obviously, we had it falling out with the credit card processor that allowed the old AMP program to carry on. So this time, we just joined Patreon. You can find it at amps.freetalklive.com. It only costs $5 per month. That gets you in.
Did I tell you what they said? I actually called the risk department last week.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Yeah. They said that, well, first of all, I discovered when I called them that they've actually closed the account. So previously they had said that they were just denying Bonnie as a signer on the account, and I needed to call Risk and talk to them about why. And at that point, I was just like, you know what, screw it. I'll just start a Patreon. But because they're still holding a few $100 that they charged before they shut down, our charging ability.
Right.
I'm like, all right, well, I'd like to get the check cut and close the account. Oh, well, your account's actually already closed. Oh, well, can you tell me why you closed the account? They said due to fraud, risk of fraud. And this was after a decade of using this particular company, as if I recall correctly. We've had them on board. We've been on board with them forever. The average transaction is like $10 because it's the AMP program.
And there's never been any sort of charges of fraud or anything like
never.
that.
No one's ever alleged any fraud against us.
So it's related
point.
To the federal indictment.
I mean, you could go out on a limb, and
that would be my guess.
Yeah, there's a good chance of it. Yeah.
So thank you, Ron Dinyan. Help us avoid stuff like that by just joining the Patreon. That's amps.freetalklive.com.
And by the way, speaking of deplatformings, we did check the Nemo.tv, which was one of our lesser streaming platforms. It was one of those things where it was just like on the list of potential platforms you could do on one of these restream things. And I went for things that had categories besides just video game streaming, and it did have other categories. But apparently in their terms of service, which nobody reads this crap, in their community guidelines, they specifically prohibit anti-government or anti-state content, which is basically every minute of this program.
Well, it's no surprise then that they kicked us off.
They haven't banned us permanently. It's just they keep kicking us for like a week at a time, and then they kick us again and again.
So. Well, this latest one was like at least a month, right?
No.
Oh, I thought we've been gone there for...
We were back on the 2nd and now banned until the 9th.
Okay, so...
But they'll do it again and again.
Yeah, as soon as we're back on the 9th, they will continue doing it. Let's go to the phones. We've got Alu calling from New Hampshire. Alu, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
Free Talk Live is my favorite podcast and radio show, and I'm finally back to listening to the full podcast every concerned and
Thanks,
you guys are
man.
awesome. And you guys are actually pretty funny, too. Yes, I want to talk about independence, which is obviously one of the big things that I'm concerned with. So there's a bill, as a lot of people know now, sponsored by 9 state representatives in New Hampshire, which, again, already puts us at the number one ahead of any other state as far as the independence movement. We are leagues ahead of Texas or California or any other state. And every person I talk to, including people who aren't political, people who are moderates, centrists, right, left, everyone I talk to at work is totally on board.
Really?
So far, the people I've spoken to at work, and this is, regular EMTs, people who are apolitical or people who are, pretty centrist on both issues. And I've spoken to my friends who are very center on a lot of issues, so we debate a lot of stuff. They are totally on board. They agree that that New Hampshire and the Union is headed in the wrong direction. And I'm actually going to publish an article on LibertyBlock.com, hopefully tonight or tomorrow, about heading in the wrong direction. You guys mentioned that poll, I think, the last few shows about, I think, St. Anselm College poll.
Yeah, I actually did a breakdown. I don't know if you've seen it, but I did a breakdown over at FreeKeen. No, it was nhexit.us. Sorry, over at nhexit.us, where I looked at the poll demographics. That's where we found that younger people are actually more likely to find that the country is going in the wrong direction. People with a lesser quote-unquote education are more likely to believe the country is going in the wrong direction. And Republicans and undeclared voters, which is particularly interesting, are also very likely, with Republicans at 95% saying the country is going in the wrong direction, and undeclared voters, I believe it was 73 or 75%, so the supermajority of them. And it's important to point out to people, it's the undeclared voters who are the most important aspect of winning any election or any vote in New Hampshire, because they are the plurality. There are more undeclared voters in New Hampshire than there are Republicans, and then there are Democrats. So the undeclared voters are the real strength.
Is that and this exact same poll numbers is actually very similar in New Hampshire and throughout the United States. And I've talked about this before, and I'm going to put it in my article tonight. Throughout the United States, also around 70% to around 20% believe that the United States is headed in the wrong direction, on the wrong track, and they just totally have no faith. And obviously, a lot of the other polls for President Poopy Pants Biden were really bad over the last few days that even NBC did. And they said people have no faith in Biden, and, like 20 to 30, 40% more, believe that Biden cannot handle a crisis or handle the United States well or anything like that. So I think it's extremely popular. And what I would ask everyone is, obviously, check out LibertyBlock.com and everything for a lot of info on New Hampshire independence and all that.
That's LibertyBlock.com. You talk so fast.
He does, man. Really fast. So much information.
He's from New York, and he's super excited and energetic about independence, so I definitely appreciate it. But yeah, it's LibertyBlock.com. That's where you can post that.
People call and email their reps. I think it can pass. I just spoke to a few more reps who support the bill. I've heard from dozens of state reps, maybe 50 to 100, that they support the bill already, the legislation to put independence on the ballot. And I think, again, as you all know, in New Hampshire, it's very easy to affect a legislator. If they get 5, 10 emails or even 2 or 3 calls, they will flip their vote on those.
Now, as Mike pointed out, Mike Sylvia pointed out, he's the state rep who's leading this charge. He's the guy who filed the legislation. He's the lead rep, behind this. As he pointed out, if he hears from somebody who's not one of his constituents, he really doesn't care that much what that person has to say. So it's all the more relevant for people to reach out specifically to the people who are their quote-unquote reps in their political, geographic boundaries. That's where it really kind of makes a difference.
I would say email and call your reps, and then if you have more time, you can go to the other 400 as well, for sure. And then as soon as it's in a committee, maybe January it'll get a committee assignment, it's very important that we all call and email those 20 committee members, because they can apparently do interim study. And I just learned from a rep a few hours ago that they can kill the bill. I thought every bill had to get a public hearing. Technically, if the committee votes, I believe like 11 to 10, if they vote to do interim study, meaning put it to study it in the interim, it'll be dead.
Whoa! They can do that before having a public hearing? I have never heard that before.
No, there might be a public hearing, but no House vote with the whole House floor.
Right. Yeah, that's true. They can kick it down the road by putting it on an interim study, which basically means that nothing happens this year on it. So yeah, you're right. People should be reaching out to the committee. We're going to have details on that within the next few weeks, I imagine. It's still so early in this. We don't even know what the bill is going to be called, right? Like, we've read the bill. We helped write the thing. You and I, Aria, we were on this panel of people that, along with Alu, that helped craft the language of this. And it's in the process. It's in the gears of the system right now, and those are slow turning gears. But at some point, those gears should spit out a number where then we'll be able to say, all right, it's CACR X, and we'll have a number that we can refer to, and then the news media might actually write about it because then they can reference it. Right now, we just get to say it's in the system, trust us, it's coming. And then once the bill number's assigned, then they'll assign a committee, and then we'll know when the date is that people can show up in mass in real life.
Oh, it's going to be packed.
And pack this hearing and force them to open up to a larger room, because by default, they only have these hearings in rooms that can't hold more than a dozen audience members, and we want to force them into.
That won't be anywhere near enough.
We want to force them into at least the double-size room where there's like 100 seats or 75 seats, and if we can, we want to force it into the entire New Hampshire State House where there's 400 seats and have people streaming in and out of there all day, make it an all-day-long hearing. That is possible, just takes numbers.
Alu, thank you so much for the call tonight. Man, that's exciting.
It can happen.
And I look forward to it because we'll easily get a dozen just from Keene.
I hope so.
I would imagine. And you start factoring in.
You got to get up early in the morning.
Yeah, but for this, it's worth it. I can do it if it's worth it, man. I mean, I've proven that. I don't like doing it, but if it's worth it, I can do it.
All right.
And this is absolutely worth it. We can get a dozen people there from Keene, plus Manchester, Nashua, Concord, libertarians from all over the state of New Hampshire, or just free
not
staters.
Just libertarians, people who, I mean, like he was saying, there's a lot of people who this is the time for this. I mean, I think it was time, a decade ago, 2 decades ago, but
yeah, this idea
late than never.
has come.
It has come now.
More and more people are open to the idea from all walks of the all sides of the aisle.
And if it's true that there's over 68% of New Hampshire voters are saying they're sick of the direction the federal government is going, or that they think it's going in the wrong direction, that to me is a ripe constituency for giving them a solution. That'll
because
work.
the poor little tiny state of New Hampshire with its small population is never going to have much of an impact on what direction the federal government goes.
No, California crushes us.
Yeah, so just let California have it, and just have nothing more to do with it.
Amen.
I look forward to seeing
out.
what's going to happen. It's going to be fun either way.
You see, I am out. I'm out, Bill.
Yeah.
Am I right?
And H exit.
Declaring independence peaceably from the United States. That's that's what's happening here in New Hampshire. So get on up here.
And check out Alu over at libertyblock.com.
Thank you.
Guy.
I've already forgotten the website again. That's libertyblock.com. It's been Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using